The CEO enters the private suite, ready to finalize the details of the high-stakes merger. He looks down, assessing the scene with the cold, calculated precision of a man who owns the city. Behind his glasses, his eyes are sharp and analytical, scanning for any sign of weakness in the proposal. He reaches out with a steady hand, prepared to lead the next phase of this complex project. The tension in the room is palpable as he makes his commanding presence known. Nan Zhi walks down the long, dimly lit corridor, her mind racing with thoughts of time management and corporate efficiency. This is Fu Hanzhou, the legendary head of the Fu Corporation, a titan of global industry. She can hardly believe her luck, meeting the one man who could change her career trajectory in a single night. He reaches out to steady her, maintaining a strictly professional grip to ensure she doesn't lose her footing. His profile is as sharp as his business acumen, radiating an aura of absolute authority and control. She looks up at him, her mind already spinning with the potential for a strategic alliance. He looks down at her, weighing the value of this unexpected encounter with a critical eye. Their shoes click against the floor, marking the start of a very intense and private negotiation. He glances away for a moment, already thinking 3 steps ahead of everyone else in the building. This is the face of a man who controls real estate, healthcare, and the future of global finance. She leans in, asking the critical question. Is he truly willing to help her secure her professional future? They move into the private office to discuss the highly confidential terms of their new agreement. The atmosphere grows thick with the weight of the corporate secrets they are about to share. They lock into a professional stance, demonstrating the unity required for a successful partnership. Outside, the rival Jiangxi is losing his mind, unable to comprehend how he lost his seat at the table. He screams in frustration, wondering how such a high-level deal could be happening without his input. Through the glass, he catches a fleeting glimpse of the 2 powerhouses finalizing their secret pact. He takes a desperate step forward, but he's already been completely shut out of the inner circle. Inside, Fu Hanzhou adjusts his tie, preparing to conclude the evening's technical review. They stand in close proximity, a necessity to whisper the most sensitive financial data in private. He watches her carefully, ensuring she understands the gravity of the contract they've just formed. He assists her across the room, providing support as they finish the final stages of the collaboration. He leads her toward the lounge area where the final project documents are waiting to be reviewed. He takes a moment to straighten his suit, ever the professional even after a long night of intense work. They lean over the technical plans, the intensity of their focus unmatched by any other corporate duo. He stares her down, warning her that entering a partnership with him is a lifelong commitment. She doesn't flinch, challenging him to see if he can truly keep up with her own professional drive. By morning, her phone is blowing up with over 30 missed calls from a desperate, panicked Jiangxi. She sits up in the quiet room, looking at the notifications with a sense of detached professional satisfaction. Replying to him is a waste of resources when she has far more important assets to manage now. To her surprise, the CEO is still present, preparing for the morning's briefing after a long night of strategy. She hadn't expected the president to stay for the follow-up debriefing so early in the day. He looks over at her, his expression unreadable as he waits for her to begin the morning report. She feels the weight of his gaze, realizing that working with a titan like him is a full-time job. He watches her every move, analyzing her potential as a long-term business partner. He makes a decisive gesture, indicating that the next phase of their project is about to begin. He leans in close, confirming that he's developed a real taste for their collaborative success. With a subtle smirk, he makes it clear that this professional alliance is only just getting started. Nan Zhi stirs at dawn, determined to exit the suite before her high-powered business associate wakes. She casts one final glance at the sleeping CEO, acknowledging the gravity of the overnight merger they just finalized. The morning sun hits the sleek, modern architecture of the luxury resort where the deal took place. Standing on the curb, she quickly realized that securing transportation this early in the outskirts is a major logistical nightmare. A luxury sedan glides to a smooth halt, its tinted windows masking the identity of the driver. She approaches the vehicle with caution, wondering if this is a pre-arranged pickup for her morning commute. Young Master Lu lowers the window, offering a professional courtesy ride back to the city center. Recalling his reputation for impeccable corporate etiquette, she decides this is the most efficient way to travel. Her composure wavers as she realizes the back seat is already occupied by a very familiar and imposing figure. Fu Hanzhou sits in the shadows, his mind likely already processing the day's global market trends. He turns his sharp, analytical gaze toward her, silently demanding her presence inside the vehicle. She settles into the plush leather seat, the atmosphere thick with the weight of their unspoken strategic agreement. Lu Xingji glances back from the driver's seat, sensing the overwhelming power dynamic between his 2 passengers. The president remains silent, his stoic expression alone enough to command the entire interior space. Even the confident Lu Xingxi feels the pressure of being in the presence of such a legendary corporate titan. He quickly sends a discreet text, likely alerting his inner circle to the unexpected alliance unfolding before him. The car arrives at an upscale residential complex, the perfect backdrop for high-level industry personnel. Lu Xingxi observes the duo, noting the professional intensity that radiates from both Nan Zhi and the CEO. He bids them a hasty farewell, leaving the final stage of the morning's briefing to the president himself. Nan Zhi suggests she can handle the remaining distance on foot to save the CEO any further trouble. Fu Hanzhou counters her modesty, questioning why she's acting so cautious after their bold negotiations last night. She maintains a polite, professional smile, reminding him that their partnership was a mutual business decision. He adjusts his glasses with precision, pivoting the conversation toward a more permanent and exclusive collaboration. She initially declines the proposal, leading to a momentary but intense deadlock in their discussion. A sudden vibration from her handbag signals a desperate incoming message from her rival Jiang Qi. She reads the frantic text with a look of pure professional disdain for his complete lack of composure. Realizing the strategic benefit of Fu's immense protection, she prepares to revise her earlier rejection. She invites the president upstairs to her place to finalize the technical terms of their long-term agreement in private. They walk through the building lobby together, forming a pair that commands the attention of everyone present. Two neighbors are finishing their morning chat as the elevator doors slide open on her floor. They stop and stare, clearly taken aback by the presence of such a high-caliber executive in their hallway. One neighbor leans in with a curious look, asking if this impressive man is her new partner. Nan Zhi quickly clarifies that he is a professional associate, though her neighbor seems entirely skeptical. The elderly woman smiles warmly, finding the professional excuse quite amusing given the CEO's presence. Once they reach her apartment, she gestures for the CEO to enter the workspace so they can conclude their talk. He immediately closes the distance, questioning her choice of the word friend for their complex relationship. He stares into her eyes, searching for the true motive behind her sudden change of heart regarding his proposal. She challenges him directly, asking if he prefers a diplomatic answer or the unvarnished truth. He leans in closer, making it clear that he only cares about hearing results that favor his current mood. The phone in her bag buzzes again, threatening to disrupt the focus of their high-stakes meeting once more. He looks toward the source of the noise, his brow furrowing at the persistent and unwelcome interruption. The screen clearly displays a call from Jiang Qi, the very rival they are looking to sideline from the industry. They both stare at the device, recognizing the desperate attempts of a man who has lost his grip on the situation. Fu Hanzhou lifts her chin, ensuring her focus remains entirely on him and the finalization of their new deal. He maintains a close proximity to emphasize the absolute exclusivity of their new professional bond. He suggests she answer the call, letting the rival hear exactly who she is collaborating with now. Fu Hanzhou pulls her in close, sealing their new agreement with an intense display of professional dominance. He acknowledges her strategic decision, noting that she has made a very wise choice for her career future. Nan Zhi's attention shifts as her phone begins to ring, prompting the CEO to ask if there's a matter requiring immediate attention. The screen reveals the caller is Jiang Qi, whose persistent interruptions are becoming a major logistical nuisance. Nan Zhi reflects on the escalating pressure, realizing that making a rival like Jiang this furious will carry a heavy professional cost. Fu Hanzhou leans down, his focus entirely on ensuring Nan Zhi remains committed to their exclusive joint venture. He suddenly lifts her up, taking full charge of the situation as they move to finalize their private strategy session. In the doorway, he emphasizes the depth of their commitment, making it clear that this partnership is non-negotiable. They settle into the lounge area, ready to engage in an exhaustive overnight review of their shared corporate goals. Back at the office, Nan Zhi stares at her monitor, processing the news that her project's distributors are suddenly pulling out. Her assistant rushes in, confirming that the entire supply chain is being systematically dismantled by an outside force. Nan Zhi checks her device, realizing that Jiang Qi is likely behind this aggressive attempt to sabotage her career. A message arrives from President Cheng, inviting her to a private club to discuss a potential resolution to these misunderstandings. She arrives at the Dihao Club, a high-end venue where the city's power players often conduct their most ruthless business. Nan Zhi pushes the doors open, her expression firm as she prepares to confront the forces trying to derail her promotion. She enters the private lounge to find Jiang Qi surrounded by his associates, already celebrating his perceived victory. His colleagues offer mocking remarks, treating the serious professional dispute like a trivial social game. Jiang Qi sits back with a smug grin, clearly enjoying the leverage he currently holds over her distribution network. Nan Zhi stands her ground, refusing to let the hostile environment intimidate her during this critical negotiation. Jiang Qi gestures to the table, demanding she apologize and drink as a sign of submission to his authority. A cold smile touches Nan Zhi's lips as she realizes exactly what kind of game he wants to play. She picks up a glass of wine, maintaining an air of calm elegance despite the insults being hurled her way. Jiang Qi watches her intently, expecting her to follow his demands to salvage her crumbling business deals. He dismissively tells her that they can only talk terms once she's shown the proper amount of respect. Nan Zhi raises the glass, her eyes flashing with a sudden, dangerous intensity that catches him off guard. He continues to gloat, unaware that his attempt to intimidate her is about to backfire spectacularly. Without a word, she pours the entire glass of red wine directly over his head, effectively ending any pretense of a polite meeting. She stares him down, reminding him that he is nothing more than a privileged shadow without his family's corporate backing. Infuriated by the public humiliation, Jiangxi lunges forward, his composure completely shattered. Nan Zhi reacts with lightning speed, delivering a sharp, well-deserved strike that sends him reeling back. He grabs her arm in a desperate attempt to regain control, but she demands he remove his hands immediately. The tension in the room reaches a breaking point as the physical confrontation draws the attention of everyone in the club. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as Fu Hanzhou arrives on the scene, his commanding presence instantly silencing the entire room. Fu Hanzhou steps into the room, radiating an aura of absolute corporate dominance. The club official quickly offers the president the best seat in the house. He settles in with cold precision, commanding Nan Zhi to join his side. Jiangxi's grip falters as he realizes he's been outmatched by a titan. Fu's gaze narrows, focusing on the rival with lethal, calculated intent. Nan Zhi seizes the opening to distance herself from Jiang's unprofessional behavior. He asks with a subtle smirk if she needs more personal encouragement to move. She takes her place beside him, acknowledging his superior tactical position. Internally, she's already plotting the most efficient exit strategy from this venue. He leans in, noting her high-risk decision to handle this dispute solo. The room erupts in whispers as the socialites witness the new power dynamic. Jiangxi stands frozen, unable to process his sudden loss of social leverage. Driven by desperation, the rival makes one last reckless move toward her. The CEO's expression shifts into a mask of pure, unforgiving authority. A sharp impact echoes through the lounge, ending the physical threat instantly. Jiangxi collapses, finally feeling the weight of his failed professional gambit. Fu holds her steady, already calling for the rival's father to handle the mess. Security intervenes, dragging the disgraced heir out of the private suite. The remaining associates flee, terrified of being associated with the fallout. He asks her how she plans to compensate him for this strategic intervention. She maintains her composure, downplaying their previous technical collaboration. He reminds her of the intense focus they shared during their last meeting. The sheer pressure of his presence makes her feel completely transparent. She notes that his current behavior contradicts his public corporate profile. Realizing the meeting has concluded, she prepares to leave the workspace. He reaches out, blocking her departure with a firm, professional grip. He demands a final decision regarding the exclusive partnership he proposed. She counters with a blunt inquiry about his true professional motivations. He remains unreadable, dismissing her question as irrelevant to the deal. He releases her, reclaiming his cold and detached executive stance. She officially declines, citing his honesty as a rare but insufficient asset. He questions her logic as she explains her current lack of trust in partners. She offers a standard business dinner to settle the debt for his assistance. He rejects the offer, terminating their interaction before his interest grows further. She bids him a final professional farewell and turns toward the exit. He watches her depart, remaining alone in the dimly lit lounge area. He adjusts his focus, already moving on to the next phase of his plan. A subtle, knowing look crosses his face as he evaluates her potential. In the office hallways, colleagues whisper behind closed doors, spreading rumors about the messy end of her high-profile relationship. The department manager slams a report down, questioning her professional competence over a suspicious data discrepancy. She maintains a calm exterior, knowing full well that someone is intentionally sabotaging her technical submissions. A jealous colleague leans in to poison the manager's mind, blaming Nan Zhi's supposed personal drama for the error. Nan Zhi produces a hard copy backup, proving her data was accurate before it was tampered with in the cloud. She turns a sharp gaze toward her rival, advising her to focus on her own performance instead of office gossip. The colleague sneers, warning her that her professional life is about to become a living nightmare thanks to Jiangxi. Nan Zhi dismisses the threat with a cold glance, making it clear she can handle whatever corporate hurdles come her way. Her friend shows her the latest trending news, noting how everyone is scrambling to stay on Jiangxi's good side. Suddenly, her friend gasps at a new headline that is currently blowing up across all social media platforms. Nan Zhi leaned to investigate the source of the digital commotion, her curiosity finally piqued by the buzz. She processes the report of Fu Hanzhou's alleged new romantic interest, her expression remaining professionally neutral. Her friend warns her that the upcoming department party will be a minefield, especially with manager Kai watching her. She prepares herself for the evening's social obligations, knowing she must remain vigilant against any workplace harassment. The scene shifts to an exclusive private club, where the department's elite have gathered for a high-stakes social mixer. Manager Kai holds court at the center table, enjoying the attention of his subordinates while nursing a drink. He corners Nan Zhi and pressures her to join the toast, but she cites a medical restriction to avoid the interaction. His face twists in anger, insulted that she would use such a transparent excuse to decline his corporate hospitality. The tension is broken as Lu Xingxi enters the lounge, accompanied by the imposing presence of Fu Hanzhou. Manager Kai's arrogance evaporates instantly as he realizes he is in the presence of the industry's true power players. Lu Xingxi approaches Nan Zhi with a friendly greeting, clearly pleased to cross paths with her in such a setting. She returns the greeting with a composed smile, navigating the complex social hierarchy with practiced ease. Fu Hanzhou stands back, his cold and analytical gaze sweeping the room without acknowledging any of the lower-level staff. She catches the CEO's eye, noting the absolute professional distance he maintains despite their previous collaboration. Lu Xingxi brushes off her formality before rushing to catch up with the president's brisk exit from the main floor. He offers a casual wave, inviting her to join their more exclusive group on the second floor once the party winds down. Her colleagues immediately swarm her, desperate to know how she secured a connection with a figure as prominent as Lu. A team of servers arrives at the table, delivering a selection of premium refreshments that were never on the original menu. The staff is stunned to learn that the entire tab, including the most expensive vintage bottles, has already been settled. Her rival looks on with pure envy, masking her frustration with a bitter comment about Nan Zhi's social advantages. Nan Zhi delivers a stinging retort, mocking the other woman's inability to grasp the complexities of high-level networking. She eyes the expensive bottle, wondering if Lu Xingxi's generosity is actually a proxy gesture from the silent CEO. Manager Kai tries to capitalize on her influence, suggesting she use her connection to secure a lucrative resort partnership. She subtly shifts away from his reach, refusing to let him leverage her professional associations for his own gain. Internally, she scoffs at the manager's delusion, knowing the Lu project is far beyond his department's technical reach. The manager continues his push, urging her to head upstairs immediately to finalize a deal with the young master. She realizes this is likely a coordinated test designed by Jiangxi to see if she still has powerful protection. She decides to play her strongest card, offering a cryptic smile that suggests she has a far more dangerous ally. Manager Kai looks bewildered as she hints that Lu Xingxi is merely a messenger for a much higher authority. With total confidence, she drops the name of the man who truly controls the room, Fu Hanzhou. Nan Zhi manages the situation by claiming a recent professional disagreement with the CEO. She swiftly excuses herself from the table, needing a moment to reset her focus. Manager Kai watches her depart, his mind racing with doubts about his next corporate move. At the sink, she tries to wash away the stress of the evening's intense social maneuvering. A jealous colleague corners her, launching a verbal assault on her professional reputation. The rival continues her taunts, mocking the performance Nan Zhi has been putting on. Tensions boil over as Nan Zhi physically interrupts the colleague's unprofessional outburst. She holds the woman over the basin, promising a harsh lesson in workplace etiquette. Nan Zhi reveals her hand, explaining that she used the CEO's name to keep their manager in check. She issues a final, chilling warning to never cross her professional boundaries again. The colleague gasps for air, her arrogance completely shattered by the confrontation. Terrified, the woman flees the room, leaving Nan Zhi to regain her composure. Nan Zhi's eyes widen as she senses she isn't alone in the facility. Fu Hanzhou stands there, an unreadable witness to her ruthless display of authority. Panic sets in as she realizes the CEO heard her leveraging his name for status. She attempts a formal apology, but he remains silent, focused on his own departure. They share a brief, awkward moment as they both conclude their visit to the area. Without a single word, the president exits, leaving her standing in the silence. She grips her hair in frustration, cursing her terrible luck for the ill-timed encounter. Desperate to mend the professional rift, she prepares an explanatory text message. Her screen flashes red, indicating her message was rejected by his private server. She stares at the device, stunned that he has already implemented a communication block. Her phone vibrates with a call from an unidentified and suspicious source. It's Jiangxi, delivering a veiled threat about her safety on the way home. She terminates the call instantly, refusing to give the rival any more of her time. Standing firm, she resolves to fight for her career, regardless of her lack of connections. Inside the lounge, the high-stakes atmosphere continues to hum with corporate energy. Fu Hanzhou returns to his seat, where Lu Xingxi is waiting for a status update. Lu questions the delay, mentioning the curious rumors circulating about her movements. The CEO ignores the small talk, his mind clearly occupied by more pressing matters. He lights a cigarette, the smoke curling around his stoic and detached expression. He dismisses a socialite's offer of a drink with a cold, professional rejection. He stubs out the cigarette, finding the entire party's entertainment value utterly lacking. Abruptly, he decides to end his participation in the evening's festivities. High above, the moon watches over the city's complex web of power and ambition. Outside, the staff gathers, gossiping about the visible distress of Nan Zhi's rival. A luxury vehicle glides past the club, its dark windows hiding its elite passenger. The group recognizes the CEO's plates, leaving Nan Zhi fearing a professional fallout. Manager Kai grins, anticipating the moment Jiangxi finally dismantles her career. Unexpectedly, the car screeches to a halt and reverses toward the stunned group. The president's top assistant steps out, calling for Nan Zhi's immediate attention. He presents his card, offering a direct line for any future corporate requirements. Nan Zhi uses the moment to request an official meeting, leaving Kai paralyzed with shock. The executive transport speeds away, leaving a trail of silence in its wake. Her friend beams with pride, celebrating the tactical victory over their workplace bullies. They laugh at the rival's expense, realizing her petty schemes have utterly failed. Nan Zhi counters her colleague's mockery with a sharp, professional retort. The disgruntled rival stomps away, fuming over her failed attempt at humiliation. Nan Zhi politely declines her friend's ride, opting to wait for her own transport. The desolate parking garage feels heavy with an unsettling, silent atmosphere. She reaches her vehicle, unaware that her personal space has been breached. A suspicious rustling sound emanates from a discarded bag left on her car. Fear takes hold as she realizes someone has intentionally tampered with her property. Sharp footsteps echo behind her, heightening her suspicion of Jiangxi's involvement. Nan Zhi drops to a defensive crouch, immediately dialing for emergency assistance. Every shadow in the dim garage now feels like a direct physical threat. A sudden grip on her shoulder causes her heart to skip a beat. She recoils in terror, only to find Fu Hanzhou standing right behind her. The shock of his presence momentarily overrides her fear of the unknown assailant. Fu Hanzhou maintains a firm hold, providing a sudden sense of corporate security. She urgently reports the tampering, pointing out the evidence on her vehicle. The mysterious package continues to twitch, hiding a potentially dangerous secret. Without hesitation, the CEO moves to inspect the suspicious item personally. He issues a series of rapid-fire orders to his security team to secure the area. Fu Hanzhou demands she accompany him to his vehicle for her own safety. He notes her hesitation, questioning why she continues to resist his professional help. Her hand catches his sleeve in a rare, involuntary moment of vulnerability. She admits her physical state has failed her under the intense psychological pressure. Her legs buckle from the adrenaline crash, leaving her unable to walk. Fu Hanzhou takes charge, lifting her with ease to ensure their swift departure. She remains silent in his arms, processing the sudden shift in their dynamic. They settle into the luxury sedan, leaving the scene of the sabotage behind. An awkward tension settles between them as the car begins to move. The proximity in the confined space forces them to acknowledge their shared space. He breaks the silence with a cold reminder to maintain professional boundaries. Nan Zhi questions his unexpected appearance after his earlier formal exit. A subtle look of amusement crosses his face at her attempt to track his movements. He clarifies that his assistant was merely handling a separate logistical task. His sharp eyes remain focused on the road ahead, revealing nothing of his intent. He dismisses her gratitude, framing his intervention as a matter of mere convenience. The silence returns, heavy with unspoken thoughts as they travel through the city. He provides the driver with her home address, prioritizing her safe return. She wonders why a man known for corporate ruthlessness is showing such concern. The vehicle glides to a stop outside her residence under the moonlight. His tone returns to its usual detached state as he signals for her to exit. She steps out onto the pavement, offering a final word of professional thanks. Something in his expression catches her off guard as she turns away. To her surprise, the CEO exits the car to stand by her side. She insists she can handle the final few steps to her door alone. He warns that her rival's obsession makes her current environment inherently unsafe. Fu Hanzhou leans in close, asking if she requires a final security escort. Nan Zhi acknowledges the tactical necessity of having the CEO escort her back to her residence. Fu questions her lack of preparation when dealing with a high-risk personality like Jiangxi. She admits she miscalculated the rival's professional character during their initial collaboration. Her resolve hardens as she vows to ensure Jiangxi faces the consequences of his actions. She offers a formal apology for the unprofessional way she leveraged the president's name. Fu's gaze remains sharp, dissecting her motivations with executive precision. He bluntly critiques her previous lack of standards in selecting professional associates. Internally, she calculates the risks of a partnership with a man of his overwhelming influence. As she turns to leave, he reminds her that the late hour requires heightened vigilance. She offers a standard courtesy, inviting him inside to conclude the evening's logistics. He declines the offer, warning her to secure her perimeter immediately to avoid further complications. Sensing the shift in atmosphere, she quickly retreats behind the safety of her door. A rare smirk crosses the CEO's face as he observes her sudden burst of caution. Safely inside, she monitors the hallway to ensure her security remains uncompromised. She considers a complete career pivot to distance herself from the ongoing corporate drama. A sudden chill hits her as she realizes the internal security of her home has been breached. Her pupils dilate with the realization that an intruder is already waiting in her private quarters. She reaches for her device to initiate an emergency security protocol. A sudden physical confrontation erupts as the intruder lunges from the shadows to intercept her. Jiangxi exerts force, making it clear he intends to settle their professional dispute through intimidation. The disgraced rival threatens to permanently dismantle her reputation with fabricated evidence. He mocks her reliance on high-level protection, claiming the CEO has already forgotten her. The impact of being thrown to the floor leaves her momentarily stunned and vulnerable. Nan Zhi looks up, her professional composure shattered by the intruder's reckless hostility. She manages to deploy a defensive counter-move, utilizing a nearby object to create distance. Jiangxi's frustration boils over into a physical threat that crosses all legal boundaries. A powerful strike suddenly connects with the rival's jaw, ending his verbal assault instantly. Fu Hanzhou stands in the doorway, the embodiment of lethal corporate authority. The intruder freezes, unable to comprehend the president's sudden and decisive intervention. The CEO's expression is a mask of pure, unforgiving judgment as he surveys the scene. Terrified, Jiangxi attempts to retreat from the overwhelming pressure of Fu's presence. Fu seizes the intruder with effortless strength, reclaiming total control of the environment. He ejects the threat from the room with the same indifference one would show to waste. Nan Zhi collapses into a defensive posture, her system finally succumbing to the shock. The president moves to provide immediate stabilization, offering a rare moment of protective support. She clings to him, her fingers gripping his vest as she seeks a sense of security. She acknowledges the critical timing of his arrival, knowing the outcome would have been dire. He instructs her to remain inside while he handles the final phase of the security breach. His assistants arrive on the scene, noting the rare intensity of the CEO's displeasure. Fu adjusts his cuffs, informing the rival that he has made a catastrophic professional error. He applies a firm, calculated pressure to ensure the intruder understands the gravity of the situation. The rival gasps in terror as he realizes he has provoked the industry's most dangerous man. With a chilling gesture for silence, Fu warns that any further disturbance will have lethal consequences. Jiangxi pathetically begs for mercy, promising he'll never approach Nan Zhi again. Fu Hanzhou's expression remains ice-cold as he prepares to physically remove the intruder from the premises. With a decisive movement, the door slams shut, signaling the finality of the rival's expulsion. Inside the quiet room, Nan Zhi tries to steady her breathing while clutching her belongings. She flinches at the slightest sound, her nerves still frayed from the recent assault. Fu Hanzhou re-enters the living space, his presence immediately commanding the room's atmosphere. She gathers her composure and confirms she is prepared to vacate the compromised apartment. His analytical gaze softens slightly, focused entirely on assessing her current state of well-being. She looks toward him, finding a rare sense of security in his unwavering professionalism. He offers a steadying presence, ensuring she feels protected before they make their move. Nan Zhi closes her eyes for a brief moment, mentally processing the night's traumatic events. The executive vehicle pulls away from the curb, leaving the scene of the crime far behind. During the transit, she asks about the legal status of the man who breached her security. Fu explains the situation with technical precision, ensuring she knows the threat has been neutralized. He reaches over to double-check the safety mechanisms, prioritizing her security during the drive. They discuss the logistical details of filing an official police report the following morning. A look of genuine gratitude crosses her face as she realizes she is finally out of immediate danger. She stares out at the passing city lights, dreading the thought of ever returning to her former home. They arrive at a high-security residential complex, far more fortified than her previous apartment. She follows him through the expansive foyer, questioning the change in their planned destination. He instructs her to use the facilities to recover from the physical stress of the evening. Fu turns back to address her hesitation, maintaining a strictly business-like demeanor regarding the stay. She expresses concern about potential social misunderstandings regarding her presence in his private residence. She feels a wave of professional embarrassment as she realizes she may have overstepped. The president remains stoic, his mind already moving to the next corporate challenge. He bluntly reminds her of the consequences of her previous poor choice in professional associates. The critique hits home, forcing her to reflect on her past errors in judgment. Fu rubs his temple, the weight of the night's complex security operations clearly taking a toll on him. He exits the main living area, leaving her to settle into the guest quarters. She watches him go, wondering if her recent professional mishaps have permanently damaged their working relationship. His mobile device vibrates on the counter, signaling an urgent late-night communication. He answers the call with his usual efficiency, ready to handle any further developments. He paces the floor, his focus entirely on the report coming through the line. The conversation turns to the legal fallout for Jiangxi, confirming the rival's total career termination. He checks the data on his screen, ensuring every piece of evidence is properly logged. With a sharp click, he terminates the call, satisfied with the tactical outcome. Sitting alone, he contemplates the long-term impact of his decision to intervene so personally. Nan Zhi lies awake in the guest suite, her mind occupied by the daunting task of repaying a man who already has everything. A soft, rhythmic sound at the door breaks the silence of the room, catching her off guard. She sits up instantly, her eyes wide with curiosity about what the CEO could possibly want at this hour. Moving with cautious grace, she prepares to greet the man who has become her unexpected guardian. Fu Hanzhou stands there with a stoic expression, noting her injuries and offering a practical solution for her recovery. She opens the door moments later, finding the hallway empty except for a small package left on the floor. A simple box of medicinal ointment sits under the dim lights, a silent testament to his meticulous attention to detail. She clutches the medicine to her chest, realizing that the cold-hearted president might have a more observant side than rumors suggest. The next morning, the high-security residence is already buzzing with the quiet intensity of executive business. Fu reviews the latest intelligence reports, issuing decisive orders to ensure the legal perimeter around his guest remains secure. He looks up as she enters, his sharp features framed by professional eyewear that highlights his calculating nature. Nan Zhi approaches the breakfast table, offering a polite greeting as she navigates the morning's formal atmosphere. She takes her seat, noting that the president has already concluded his morning routine to focus on the day's strategy. She immediately pivots to the most pressing matter, inquiring about the status of the legal proceedings against her rival. With a chilling level of confidence, he assures her that the duration of the intruder's detention is entirely up to her discretion. Her expression falters as she considers the inevitable backlash from a family desperate to protect their failing reputation. Fu dismisses her concerns, explaining that he is systematically dismantling the entire rival organization to prevent any future interference. He proposes a temporary residential arrangement, framing her stay as a tactical necessity for her ongoing protection. He waits for her response, his calm demeanor masking the immense power he is putting at her disposal. Nan Zhi seeks total clarity, asking if their current dynamic is purely a functional arrangement to satisfy physical stress. He counters with a sharp reminder that she was the one who initially set the terms of their professional engagement. She maintains her composure, asserting that their relationship must remain an equal partnership without emotional complications. She firmly rejects any notion of being a subordinate, refusing any gifts that might compromise her professional independence. The CEO stares at her in silence, his unreadable expression suggesting he is recalculating his assessment of her resolve. She doubles down on her stance, choosing a strictly limited partnership over the complexities of a traditional romantic bond. She explains her desire for a clean break in the future, wanting to avoid any messy logistical ties when they eventually part ways. She frames their interaction as a high-level method of stress management, prioritizing her career over personal entanglements. Clearly displeased by her transactional logic, Fu stands up abruptly and dismisses the conversation with a cold remark. He looks away, his internal frustration mounting as he realizes she ranks him lower than the trash she previously associated with. Nan Zhi watches him with a look of genuine confusion, unable to pinpoint what triggered his sudden shift in temperament. Without another word, the president exits the dining area, his departure leaving a heavy silence in the room. She wonders why a man of his logical standing would react so emotionally to a standard negotiation of terms. Ultimately, she takes his lack of an immediate counter-proposal as a sign that her conditions for the stay have been accepted. Later that day, the CEO's top assistant provides her with a transcript of the rival's pathetic attempts to justify his crimes. She scans the document with a look of utter disgust, refusing to entertain any private settlement for the home invasion. She acknowledges that Fu's intervention was a choice of personal conviction rather than corporate necessity, deepening her sense of debt. The assistant warns her that a distraught family member is waiting at the station, looking to initiate an emotional confrontation. Her eyes narrow with professional steel as she prepares to face the mother of the man who tried to ruin her. As she steps out of the vehicle, she is immediately intercepted by a woman demanding an explanation for the legal fallout. A woman stops Nan Zhi in her tracks, demanding to know if she is the one responsible for her son's legal downfall. Blinded by rage, the mother lashes out with a sudden, violent strike aimed directly at Nan Zhi's face. Nan Zhi reacts with lightning speed, intercepting the woman's wrist before the blow can connect. She maintains a firm grip, reminding the woman that assaulting a citizen inside a police station is a direct challenge to the law. The confrontation intensifies as Nan Zhi points out that the blame lies solely with the son who chose to break the law. Security intervention becomes necessary as the desperate mother tries to buy her way out of the criminal charges. Nan Zhi stands her ground, declaring that she will settle for nothing less than a full legal judgment without mediation. She turns her back on the frantic shouting, leaving the family to deal with the wreckage of their own making. A professional smile returns to her face as she prepares to finalize her official statement with the authorities. Monitoring the situation closely, the assistant realizes he must provide an immediate update to the president. Back at the corporate headquarters, the report comes in that Nan Zhi handled the hostility with perfect composure. Fu Hanzhou listens intently, ordering his team to maintain a high-security perimeter regardless of her perceived capability. He checks his schedule, instructing his staff to escort her to a private lunch the moment her legal duties are concluded. An associate enters the executive suite, interrupting the president's focus on the ongoing legal matter. Fu puts his device aside, his gaze shifting back to the high-stakes business at hand. They discuss the total collapse of the rival's investments, confirming that the Jiang family is being erased from the market. The CEO's eyes darken with cold logic as he reiterates that those who cross legal boundaries must face the consequences. His associate mentions an upcoming social gathering at sea, testing the waters the president's availability. Fu dismisses the invitation immediately, prioritizing a personal appointment over social networking. The colleague shudders, sensing a shift in the CEO's demeanor that suggests he is finally becoming emotionally invested in someone. Outside the station, Nan Zhi thanks the legal team for their seamless coordination throughout the morning. The assistant delivers the president's personal invitation, requesting her presence at an exclusive restaurant for lunch. He watches her depart, noting that the president's level of concern for her exceeds standard professional courtesy. Nan Zhi considers using the interim time to source a high-value gift as a formal token of her appreciation. Her focus is shattered by an urgent incoming call from a family member she hasn't heard from in years. She answers with caution, sensing a new crisis is unfolding within her personal circle. The report from her aunt confirms that her stepsister has caused a serious physical altercation at school. Nan Zhi's frustration mounts as she realizes she must now manage a family scandal on top of her corporate battles. She arrives at the medical facility to find Yang Yu-tong waiting with a characteristically defiant attitude. The younger girl lashes out, resenting Nan Zhi's interference in her self-inflicted drama. Nan Zhi shuts down the outburst instantly, warning her that her tolerance for such reckless behavior has reached its limit. The reality of a potential prison sentence finally begins to crack the girl's arrogant facade. Nan Zhi demands an immediate apology, emphasizing that the victim's entire future as a dancer is now at risk. They proceed toward the victim's room to face the consequences of the violent incident. As they reach the door, Nan Zhi freezes, recognizing a voice that shouldn't be in a place like this. Her breath hitches as she prepares to confront an unexpected figure from the upper echelons of society. Standing by the window is a man whose sheer presence commands the entire hospital suite. He turns to face them, revealing himself as Shi Lidong, the powerful heir to the Shi family empire. Nan Zhi shields her trembling stepsister as they face the overwhelming presence of the Shi family heir. Shi Lidong looks down at her, his sharp gaze cutting through the tension as he demands a professional explanation for the hospital disturbance. Nan Zhi humbles herself, acknowledging the gravity of her relative's mistake and offering full cooperation to resolve the matter. The heir reminds her that his family's influence cannot be bought, emphasizing that no amount of compensation can restore a dancer's ruined career. He questions the nature of her connection to the culprit, skeptical of the supposed sisterly bond between them. With a chilling command, he orders Nan Zhi to vacate the room so he can handle the interrogation of the girl personally. Without a second thought for her protector, the ungrateful girl scurries out of the room to avoid the heir's scrutiny. Nan Zhi is left stunned by the girl's total lack of professional or personal courtesy. Shi Lidong pivots the conversation, asking if the recent downfall of her rival was a calculated move on her part. She maintains a neutral expression, carefully weighing her words before responding to the powerful executive. In an unexpected turn, he offers to waive the police report as a personal favor, sparing her family from a public scandal. He rises to leave, clarifying that this leniency is a gesture of respect toward his professional peer, Fu Hanzhou. Nan Zhi offers a polite smile, recognizing the strategic importance of maintaining this high-level alliance. Internally, she laments the fact that her safety and reputation are becoming increasingly dependent on the CEO's influence. She makes a graceful exit, her mind already racing with the logistical fallout of the morning's events. Shi Lidong watches her leave, his focus already shifting back to his own corporate objectives. Outside the suite, the stepsister waits with a defiant smirk, completely failing to grasp the danger she was in. Nan Zhi confronts her with a stern warning, but the girl reacts with a childish outburst of misplaced anger. The girl mocks her, claiming Nan Zhi only has power because of the men she associates with in the industry. Nan Zhi looks back with a calm, intellectual disdain, refusing to sink to the level of a petty family squabble. The girl's insults turn personal, targeting Nan Zhi's character with baseless and unprofessional accusations. Choosing to maintain her dignity, Nan Zhi turns her back on the toxic environment of the hospital corridor. The younger girl stands alone, her arrogance masking the growing fear of her own uncertain future. Nan Zhi walks away, her priority shifting to protecting her aunt from the stress of this legal nightmare. A sudden realization hits her as she checks her device and sees the missed notifications from the president's office. In a high-end restaurant, Fu Hanzhou sits in solitary silence, his displeasure radiating through the empty seats. His phone illuminates the table, signaling an incoming call from the one person who dared to stand him up. He stares at the device for a moment, his analytical mind processing the breach of their scheduled appointment. He answers with a short, clipped greeting, demanding a valid reason for her lack of punctuality. He listens as she offers a sincere apology, proposing a private dinner where she will personally handle the catering. A rare, subtle smile touches his lips as he accepts her offer to make amends for the missed lunch. Relieved that the professional bridge hasn't been burned, Nan Zhi promises to provide an exceptional culinary experience. Fu swirls his wine, the tension of the day dissolving into a sense of tactical satisfaction. He delivers a final, heavy remark, making it clear that his primary interest remains her undivided professional focus. Nan Zhi's eyes widen in surprise at the sheer weight of his expectations for their future partnership. Nan Zhi ends the call, planning the logistics for the apology dinner. Fu Hanzhou hangs up, amused after successfully teasing her. She bids him farewell, still unsettled by his sudden demands. Outside, she is intercepted by a team of professional security guards. She realizes the CEO has been tracking her for her safety. The lead guard explains their mission to ensure her constant security. She reflects on Fu's meticulous attention to her personal well-being, lying. She requests a stop at a market for culinary supplies. A message confirms she is returning to the villa to prepare. Fu remains distracted by his device, ignoring social chatter. He refers to her as a stray kitten with uncharacteristic warmth. Associates note the president's sudden, unusual shift in focus. He departs abruptly, prioritizing his private plans over networking. The men are stunned by his unprecedented display of impatience. He enters the residence, reflecting a calm, analytical state. His eyes scan the room, searching for his guests. A prepared feast sits on the table, showcasing her dedication. He finds Nan Zhi asleep, exhausted from the day's events. He observes her peaceful expression during this rare moment of rest. He reaches out, making brief contact in a moment of empathy. He gently suggests she move her recovery to the bedroom. He lifts her effortlessly, maintaining a strictly supportive hold. She blinks awake, finding herself cradled by the CEO. He notes her guard only drops while semi-conscious. She grips his shirt instinctively while trying to find her bearings. She notes the distinct scent of expensive wine on him. She identifies the need for a technical recovery soup. He challenges her to identify the vintage by scent alone. She maintains close proximity to analyze the beverage's aroma. He sets a high-stakes wager on her identifying the drink. She insists physical nutrition takes priority over his games. A satisfied smirk appears as he yields to her logic. He questions the need for such an elaborate apology feast. He moves closer, acknowledging her effort with an intense gaze. She pivots to reheating the meal to the proper temperature. Nan Zhi manages the kitchen equipment with practiced efficiency. His arms wrap around her in a sudden, unexpected gesture. He leans against her, claiming extreme physical hunger. She promises to serve the first course immediately. He shifts the conversation, expressing a different priority. Fu Hanzhou maintains a supportive hold as Nan Zhi finishes the culinary preparations. He leans in closely, his presence emphasizing the new depth of their professional alliance. Recognizing her exhaustion, he lifts her to ensure she gets proper rest after the day's stress. A soft sigh escapes as the weight of the long day finally catches up to her. He secures his grip, prioritizing her comfort over the unfinished meal. The president carries her toward the rest area, focused entirely on her recovery. The following morning, they share a quiet, structured breakfast to discuss the day's logistics. Nan Zhi informs him of her plan to return to her own residence to manage personal affairs. Fu pauses his meal, inquiring about the timeline for her return to the secure villa. She expresses her gratitude for his continued logistical support during this transition. He personally assists her into the vehicle, while questioning her long-term career trajectory. She asserts her commitment to her current position, citing years of hard-earned progress. He offers an open invitation for a corporate role under his direct supervision should she reconsider. Upon entering her office, she is met with the hushed whispers of judgmental colleagues. She immediately senses the shift in the professional environment and remains on high alert. A frantic colleague approaches, insisting she view the latest industry update immediately. Nan Zhi takes the device, scanning the screen for the source of the office tension. Headlines confirm that the Jiang family's financial empire is officially undergoing a total collapse. Detailed reports expose a massive money laundering scheme involving her former associate. She realizes the staff is baselessly accusing her of participating in these illegal transactions. Her coworker explains that her recent absence was misinterpreted as aiding the criminal organization. Nan Zhi remains composed, refusing to offer explanations to those who favor gossip over facts. The internal investigation team arrives, signaling that her professional reputation is now under formal review. Nan Zhi enters the interrogation room, finding the company's internal investigation team already waiting for her. She takes her seat with a composed expression as the lead investigator begins his aggressive line of questioning. Assistant Yuan leans in, demanding she disclose the full extent of her personal relationship with the disgraced Jiang Qi. Nan Zhi remains unfazed, stating she is willing to cooperate as long as the proceedings remain strictly professional. The investigator's eyes narrow, clearly displeased by her refusal to be intimidated by his authoritative tone. He presses further, asking if she ever received illicit financial gains or high-value gifts during her tenure. Her gaze hardens as she reminds him that she is a professional witness, not a criminal suspect under his jurisdiction. She rises from her chair, declaring her dissatisfaction with his biased approach and ending the meeting on her own terms. Yuan is stunned by her defiance, his face contorted with a mix of shock and mounting frustration. With a sharp, intellectual edge, she informs him that her cooperation is entirely dependent on his level of respect. Losing his composure, Yuan shouts a sexist remark, accusing her of letting female emotions cloud the technical investigation. Nan Zhi reveals her device, showing a live recording of his unprofessional outburst that will soon be shared with the department. She clarifies the timeline of her personal life, ensuring every detail of her professional boundary is now on the record. She notes that she has already initiated legal action against Jiang for his crimes, leaving the investigator with no room for speculation. She offers a dismissive wave before exiting the room, leaving the investigative team in a state of total disarray. The men are left scrambling to minimize the damage of their recorded misconduct as the room falls into chaos. A female staff member watches from the doorway, her expression filled with quiet pride at Nan Zhi's refusal to be belittled. Back at her workstation, Nan Zhi briefs her colleague on the interrogation's focus on her supposed ties to the Jiang scandal. She maintains a lighthearted attitude, joking that she's ready to collect a severance package if the company persists with these baseless claims. Her expression softens for a moment as she reflects on past challenges that were far more daunting than this office politics. A sudden notification on a nearby screen catches her eye, shifting her focus back to the immediate threat. Her friend leans over, showing her a viral thread that is rapidly spreading through the internal corporate forum. The laptop screen displays a malicious post aimed directly at dismantling Nan Zhi's professional reputation. She reads through the slanderous comments with a calculating gaze, analyzing the source of the disinformation. The forum header highlights a sensationalized title designed to spark outrage among the corporate staff. A grainy photograph shows Nan Zhi exiting an expensive vehicle, framed by the poster as evidence of questionable behavior. She realizes the evidence is merely a routine client meeting, though the anonymous commenters are eager to believe the worst. Later in the cafeteria, her friend laughs at the absurdity of the claims, knowing the truth behind the technical logistics of that day. Nan Zhi focuses on her meal, refusing to let the digital noise disrupt her physical recovery and focus. She maintains a cool, detached demeanor as she eats, knowing she holds the evidence to debunk the entire narrative. She notes that the grace period for a voluntary apology has expired, leaving her with only one course of action. To the shock of her onlookers, she pulls out her phone and initiates a formal police report for digital defamation, right there in the cafeteria. She explains to the authorities that these rumors are a direct threat to the company's public image and internal morale. Panicked coworkers realize she isn't bluffing and rush to find a mediator to settle the matter before it escalates further. Nan Zhi considers the involvement of Tang Manrong, a senior investigator known for her fair approach to corporate disputes. High above the city streets, the corporate headquarters continues its high-stakes operations despite the internal drama. In a private boardroom, Fu Hanzhou is distracted by his device, his focus far from the quarterly profit projections being presented. He stares at a sent message that remains unanswered, his irritation mounting as Nan Zhi continues to ignore his outreach. He dismisses his associate's report with a cold critique, his patience wearing thin as his personal life remains unresolved. The president abruptly ends the session and walks out, his commanding presence leaving his staff in a state of nervous confusion. Nan Zhi enters the office to meet with Tang Manrong, the high-ranking administrative head. She maintains a composed front, refusing to let the recent office drama break her professional resolve. Tang drops a strategic bombshell, revealing her plans to soon transfer to a different corporation. The executive reflects on the glass ceiling, noting that her current position is the highest a woman has reached at the Winston Group. Nan Zhi listens with quiet respect, acknowledging the unfair scrutiny women face on their way to the top. She takes a seat to process the news, admiring Tang's courage to seek a new career path. Tang clarifies her succession plan, explicitly stating that the rival Cheryl is not a suitable candidate for the role. Nan Zhi's analytical mind quickly realizes that the downfall of the Jiang family has cleared a direct path for her promotion. Tang offers a challenge, promising to monitor Nan Zhi's performance as she prepares for the leadership transition. With a look of absolute determination, Nan Zhi accepts the responsibility of proving her worth to the firm. Tang hands over a printed copy of the malicious forum post, confirming that Cheryl was the anonymous source of the slander. Nan Zhi's gaze hardens as she realizes her opponent still hasn't learned the consequences of professional betrayal. She tracks down Mrs. Liu, a major client, who is spending the afternoon in a private luxury lounge. Nan Zhi approaches with a tactical greeting, recalling the client's specific medical history regarding seasonal allergies. They sit down for a meeting that the client initially believes is a standard pitch for beauty services. Nan Zhi corrects the assumption, stating her presence is a calculated move to reclaim the business Cheryl stole. Mrs. Liu shakes her head in dismissal, uninterested in revisiting her decision to switch hotel representatives. Nan Zhi remains undeterred, sliding a folder across the table that contains high-stakes evidence. The client's face pales as she ruffles through the documents, uncovering a scandal she never expected. Nan Zhi delivers the cold, technical facts. Cheryl has been engaged in an affair with the client's husband for over a year. She flings the photographic evidence onto the table, providing the leverage needed for a favorable legal settlement. A sharp, knowing smile crosses Nan Zhi's face as she hints at having even more pressure points to apply. She offers a polite farewell, confident that she has dismantled her rival's most important professional alliance. Mrs. Liu halts the exit, seeking Nan Zhi's personal perspective on how to handle such a massive betrayal. Nan Zhi responds with detached logic, arguing that the primary fault lies with the man's character rather than the mistress. She admits with a bitter smile that her clarity comes from having no safety net to rely on in this industry. Her expression turns somber as she reflects on her internal decision to prioritize career stability over emotional gambles. She walks away from the encounter, certain that the client's pride will result in Cheryl's total professional ruin. On her way out, she is intercepted by Mr. Liu, who is accompanied by a female associate. Nan Zhi shakes her head to decline a social invitation, explaining she is only there to conclude a business transaction. She maintains a neutral, polite expression when Lu mentions that a mutual acquaintance is in a terrible mood. Lu gestures toward the entrance as a familiar, towering figure enters the facility. Nan Zhi's focus shifts immediately as she recognizes the imposing presence of Fu Hanzhou. The CEO approaches in casual athletic wear, his stride making it clear he was looking specifically for her. He stops inches away, his eyes burning with a mix of frustration and demand as he asks why she ignored his messages. Nan Zhi offers a sincere apology, explaining that her heavy workload prevented her from monitoring her communications. Fu Hanzhou secures her wrist, delivering a stern reminder to prioritize his outreach in the future. He maintains a dominant stance, his presence a constant reminder of their high-stakes partnership. Nearby associates observe the interaction, noting the president's uncharacteristic focus on his manager. Nan Zhi politely declines the offer to join the social gathering, opting to maintain her professional distance. Ignoring her hesitation, Fu takes the lead and guides her toward the facility's private sector. He informs her that a change of attire is required to meet the technical standards of the upcoming activity. They arrive at exclusive lounge, a space designed for the highest level of corporate privacy. Nan Zhi scans the room, noting the meticulous organization of the high-end accommodations. She examines the provided athletic uniform, concerned that the dimensions are not suited for her comfort. Startled by his sudden appearance in the room, she questions why he is personally supervising her wardrobe change. Fu Hanzhou watches her with an analytical eye, sensing her internal resistance to his demands. She quickly denies any frustration, maintaining a mask of professional compliance before her superior. A subtle smirk appears as he notes that her reactions are often easy for him to calculate. Nan Zhi presents herself in the new outfit, reiterating that the fit doesn't meet her functional requirements. Fu reaches out to inspect the garment, his focus entirely on the technical aspect of the fit. He draws her closer to assess the material, his commanding presence filling the small space. Nan Zhi reminds him that his business associates are awaiting his return to the main floor. Fu prepares to depart the lounge, his demeanor shifting back to his standard corporate coldness. She grips his sleeve, expressing a rare moment of concern regarding how the others will perceive her appearance. He pauses, turning back to offer a rare moment of psychological support to his subordinate. He asserts that her presence will only highlight the inadequacy of everyone else in the room. Nan Zhi prepares to transition back into her standard professional attire for the next phase of the day. Fu Hanzhou remains in the room, his gaze fixed on her as she manages the logistical task of changing. She questions the necessity of his continued observation during such a routine personal task. He moves in to assist, his focus remaining on the efficiency of the wardrobe transition. He helps secure the garment, ensuring every detail of her professional image is perfectly aligned. Nan Zhi remains still, her focus on maintaining composure despite the intense level of his supervision. With the task complete, he prepares to lead her back into the public eye to face their peers. They arrive at the athletic courts, where the city's elite have gathered for a scheduled match. Fu Hanzhou addresses the crowd, framing his attendance as a calculated use of his limited free time. A rival executive watches the pair closely, analyzing the dynamics of their alliance. Nan Zhi stands ready for the match, her expression hardening with the intent to perform at an elite level. Young Master Xi approaches, expressing his gratitude for Fu's professional leniency regarding a family matter. Xi's gaze shifts to Nan Zhi, his eyes filled with a sudden, unspoken realization. He questions whether Fu has been fully transparent with her regarding the true nature of their recent negotiations. Xi Ledong observes that Nan Zhi seems to hold a particularly significant place in the president's current strategy. Fu Hanzhou offers a calculated smirk, framing his interest as a strictly high-stakes business negotiation. As they move toward the court, Nan Zhi prepares to query the president on the specifics of his latest corporate maneuver. Fu explains that securing the Xi family's cooperation required a multi-million-dollar adjustment to their joint venture's budget. Nan Zhi realizes the massive financial weight of his support, making the concept of professional equality feel increasingly out of reach. He cuts her off with a firm gesture, insisting she focus on the physical requirements of the upcoming athletic session. He directs her toward the warm-up area, maintaining a hands-on approach to her training regimen. Despite the activity, Nan Zhi remains visibly preoccupied with the complex power dynamics at play. Fu provides physical stabilization during a stretch, ensuring her form meets the necessary safety standards for the match. He issues a stern warning, noting that a lack of focus during these technical movements could result in a serious injury. She meets his gaze, trying to decipher the intense scrutiny he is applying to her every move. The president closes the distance, his focus narrowing as he emphasizes the importance of her undivided attention. Nan Zhi is left momentarily speechless as the president admits his personal focus is shifting away from the technicalities of the match. Their private training session is interrupted by the arrival of other high-ranking socialites. Jaden Song enters with Gillian Tang, the daughter of a prominent family who has recently returned from abroad. Gillian immediately gravitates toward Fu, eager to re-establish their long-standing social connection. She turns her attention to Nan Zhi, her expression shifting to one of cold, analytical curiosity. Nan Zhi offers a polite, professional introduction to maintain the decorum expected in such elite circles. Gillian sizes her up with a condescending glare, clearly viewing the manager as an unwanted interloper. She attempts to bridge the gap with Fu by reminiscing about their shared childhood and previous athletic training. Sensing the social friction, Nan Zhi takes a tactical step back to clarify that her presence is strictly for professional coaching. Fu's expression darkens at her attempt to distance herself from him in front of their peers. Gillian ignores the tension, pressuring Fu to partner with her for the upcoming competitive tournament. She tries to force a closer interaction, but Fu remains unmoved, questioning her lack of professional boundaries. He delivers a blunt critique of her work ethic, stating she would never meet the rigorous standards of his corporation. He advises her to follow standard recruitment protocols if she truly wishes to secure a position under his leadership. Jaden watches the exchange with a weary sigh, recognizing that Gillian's attempts to gain Fu's favor are failing. He steps in to manage the situation, ushering Gillian toward the locker rooms to prepare for the game. Even as she is led away, Gillian casts a sharp, resentful glance back at the manager who has caught the president's eye. Nan Zhi remains confused by the sudden hostility, unsure of what she did to provoke such a visceral reaction. She questions Fu about the optics of their closeness, fearing that his public displays of support will lead to further misunderstandings. He leans in with a final, pointed whisper, reminding her that her previous lack of professional composure in his private quarters tells a different story. Nan Zhi pulls the president aside, urging him to maintain a professional distance while they are in such a high-profile social setting. She mentally scolds him for not providing a briefing on his past acquaintances, leaving her completely unprepared to handle the sudden arrival of his social circles. Fu Hanzhou stares back with a blank expression, seemingly ignoring her entire lecture on corporate optics. He shifts his attention as Shi Lidong returns to the court, signaling the end of their brief private exchange. The group reconvenes on the blue court, with Gillian Tang wasting no time in rushing back to the president's side. To prevent any further social friction, Jaden Song steps in with a handful of slips, suggesting they draw lots to determine the doubles teams fairly. Gillian immediately tries to bypass the rules to partner with Fu, but the group insists on sticking to the random selection process. Jaden holds out the markers, inviting Nan Zhi and Fu to make their choice and let fate decide the matchups. As they reach for the slips, Fu's finger intentionally brushes against Nan Zhi's hand in a subtle display of dominance. Nan Zhi looks up in surprise, questioning if the calculated contact was a deliberate attempt to rattle her composure. She pulls her hand back and reveals her slip, confirming that she has been assigned to the red team. Her new partner, the easygoing Song Jiayu, celebrates their pairing with an enthusiastic grin. The atmosphere around them instantly turns frigid as Fu Hanzhou radiates a terrifying level of silent jealousy toward the new duo. Unaware of the danger, Jiayu tries to build rapport with Nan Zhi by offering to treat the team to dinner if they secure a victory. Nan Zhi offers a modest smile, warning her partner that her long absence from the court might make her a risky investment. She can feel Fu's intense gaze burning into her back, his possessive focus never wavering even as they prepare to split up. The players take their positions across the court, ready to begin a competitive mixed doubles session. Fu Hanzhou remains rooted in place for a moment, his dark expression betraying his dissatisfaction with the team assignments. Gillian Tang clings to his arm, thrilled that the draw placed her on the same side of the net as the president. Her smile falters when she realizes that Fu isn't even looking at her, his eyes entirely fixed on the woman on the adjacent court. Gillian masks her insecurity with a look of pure determination, convincing herself that she is the only woman worthy of Fu's attention. Nan Zhi grips her racket and takes a deep breath, reflecting on how many years have passed since she last engaged in a serious match. Jiayu offers a reassuring smirk, telling her to relax and trust in his ability to cover the court. Across the net, Ji Lidong prepares to receive, signaling for Nan Zhi to open the game with her best serve. She tosses the ball high into the air, her focus narrowing as she prepares to launch the first strike. With a powerful crack of the racket, she sends the ball screaming across the net, catching the opposing team off guard. Jiayu is stunned by her technical prowess, complimenting her on her impressive physical conditioning. She maintains her professional focus, noting that her routine jogging sessions have luckily preserved her athletic instincts. Meanwhile, on the neighboring court, Gillian Tang struggles to maintain her form, her lack of discipline becoming immediately apparent. She begins to pant heavily, playing up her exhaustion in a desperate bid to garner some sympathy from her partner. Fu Hanzhou offers no reaction to her performance, his cold indifference making the socialite's efforts feel entirely futile. He stands motionless, his attention completely diverted toward the high-stakes energy of Nan Zhi's match. Nan Zhi continues to dominate her sector of the court, moving with a level of grace that commands the room's attention. Gillian watches from the sidelines, her expression twisting into a scowl as she realizes Fu has finally found someone who truly captures his interest. Overcome by a sudden wave of malice, Gillian prepares to use the next volley as a weapon against her rival. She puts all her weight into a reckless swing, aiming the high-speed projectile directly at Nan Zhi's head. Fu Hanzhou's eyes widen in alarm as he shouts a warning, while Nan Zhi turns just in time to see the dangerous ball closing in. A high-velocity tennis ball streaks past Nan Zhi, narrowly missing her face as the game turns dangerous. The projectile slams into her with a dull thud, forcing a sharp gasp of pain from her lungs. Fu Hanzhou is at her side in an instant, his voice tight with uncharacteristic worry as he checks for injuries. Nan Zhi clutches her chest, trying to maintain her professional poise despite the stinging impact of the shot. Fu's gaze turns ice-cold as he demands an immediate apology from Tang Jingxuan for her reckless play. Jillian offers a hollow, sugary apology, hiding her malice behind a mask of supposed technical incompetence. Nan Zhi dismisses the drama with a wave, refusing to give her rival the satisfaction of a visible emotional reaction. She pauses, delivering a subtle verbal jab that acknowledges the surprising power behind the socialite's erratic swing. Jillian's face twists in frustration as she realizes her attempt at intimidation has been countered with effortless grace. Nan Zhi maintains a look of pure innocence, questioning why her opponent is suddenly so agitated by a simple compliment. From the sidelines, the observers recognize that Jillian's petty tricks are failing to disrupt the manager's composure. Ignoring the lingering tension, Nan Zhi urges everyone to return to their positions and resume the match. Her partner, Jiayu, begins to sweat under the suffocating pressure of the president's dark, jealous aura. He suddenly feigns physical exhaustion, desperately trying to exit the court before Fu's patience reaches its limit. Nan Zhi tries to block the transition, arguing that the president's schedule is far too valuable for a casual game. Sensing the deadlock, Si Lidong steps forward to take over the empty slot on the red team. Nan Zhi finds herself in an awkward position, realizing she now owes the Shi here another professional favor. Si Lidong notes that her athletic stance is technically flawed and could lead to a preventable back injury. He provides a brief, hands-on correction to her posture, ensuring her form meets the requirements for high-impact play. Fu Hanzhou watches the interaction from across the court, his grip tightening on his racket as his jealousy flares. Jillian seizes the opportunity, pressuring the president to finally team up with her for the next round. The two teams take their places, setting the stage for a high-stakes confrontation between the rival pairs. The spectators lean in with anticipation, sensing that the social dynamics are about to reach a breaking point. Nan Zhi squares off against Fu Hanzhou, feeling a strange shift in energy now that they are official opponents. Si Lidong initiates the first play, tossing the ball into the air with practiced, athletic precision. He delivers a powerful serve that cuts through the air, signaling the start of a serious competitive volley. Fu Hanzhou returns the ball with aggressive force, his every movement fueled by a silent, possessive drive. The match intensifies as both sides refuse to yield, turning the casual court into a battleground of ego and skill. Jaden's companion watches the exchange, wondering which side will eventually crumble under the mounting pressure. Jaden observes that Fu has already lost the most important part of the game by standing on the opposite side of the net. Nan Zhi spots a critical opening in the opposing team's defense, her eyes narrowing with calculated intent. She puts her entire weight into a massive overhead swing, focusing her strength into a single, decisive strike. The ball rockets across the court and slams directly into Jillian Tang, mirroring the accident from earlier. Jillian collapses onto the blue turf, her pride shattered as she reels from the unexpected physical impact. Si Lidong offers a celebratory high five, commending Nan Zhi on her impeccable timing and tactical execution. Nan Zhi looks down at her fallen rival, delivering a perfectly cold apology that echoes the socialite's own earlier excuses. Jillian demands immediate attention, while Fu Hanzhou remains a silent, judging observer to the mounting chaos on the blue court. Nan Zhi keeps her eyes sharp and focused, refusing to let the socialite's petty games break her internal composure. Fu Hanzhou listens with a cold, analytical gaze as Jillian tries to frame her reckless behavior as a simple technical error. Nan Zhi regains her footing, offering a polite but pointed suggestion for Jillian to retire from the match before she causes further trouble. Jillian's face twists in a silent, vengeful fury, swearing to make the manager pay for this public humiliation. Leaving the court behind, Nan Zhi is approached by a woman who was clearly impressed by her poise under pressure. Zhao Lixia introduces herself as Lu Xingxi's partner, extending a hand to establish a new social connection. The two women walk through the facility, discussing a potential dinner invitation to further their professional networking. Nan Zhi checks her device, firmly deciding that she has no professional obligation to report her whereabouts to the president. They begin their descent down the grand staircase, unaware that a shadow is following closely behind them. A hand suddenly reaches out from the darkness, aiming to disrupt Nan Zhi's balance and force a fall. Nan Zhi is jolted forward as a violent shove sends her stumbling dangerously toward the edge of the stairs. Her reflexes kick in as she grips the railing with white-knuckled intensity, narrowly avoiding a serious injury. She spins around to find Jillian Tang standing above her, the socialite openly admitting to the physical retaliation. Jillian sneers down at her, asserting that their differing social statuses mean she can act with total impunity against a mere employee. Refusing to be a victim, Nan Zhi surges upward and seizes Jillian by the collar, catching the heiress completely off guard. She slams the socialite against the safety railing, the impact echoing through the quiet stairwell. With a chillingly calm voice, Nan Zhi warns that a headline about an assault would ruin the Tang family's corporate reputation instantly. Gillian struggles against the grip, realization dawning that she has pushed the manager far beyond her breaking point. The sound of the scuffle draws the attention of the other executives, who rush over to witness the high-stakes confrontation. Jaden steps forward with a nervous gesture, desperately trying to frame the violent encounter as a simple personality clash. Nan Zhi finally releases her hold, standing her ground with a cold, professional dignity that dwarfs her opponent. Gillian gasps for air, her eyes wide with shock at the manager's unexpected display of physical dominance. Zhi Lidong intervenes, grabbing Gillian's arm to escort her away before she can cause any more professional damage. He issues a stern ultimatum to the group, declaring that anyone who enables Gillian's behavior will lose his social favor. As they walk away, Nan Zhi's ankle gives out from the strain, and she immediately reaches out to provide physical support. Recognizing the severity of her injury, he lifts her up to ensure she can reach transportation safely and efficiently. The other club members watch the pair head toward the exit, dreading the moment Fu Hanzhou discovers they have left together. They arrive at the parking lot, where C carefully assists her into his vehicle to avoid further aggravating her sprain. Nan Zhi settles into the passenger seat, maintaining a focused demeanor as they prepare to depart the club grounds. A sharp sound confirms that her professional attire was damaged during the physical struggle on the stairs. She quickly uses her bag to cover the tear, ensuring she maintains her decorum despite the wardrobe malfunction. Inside the quiet cabin, Z requests her destination, his focus remaining entirely on the logistics of getting her home safely. The car begins to pull out of the lot, putting much-needed distance between Nan Zhi and the day's corporate drama. Suddenly, a dark sedan swerves violently into their path, forcing a screeching halt as it blocks their exit. The force of the sudden stop throws them forward against their seatbelts, leaving Nan Zhi momentarily breathless. Her phone illuminates the dark interior, revealing a high-priority call from a very displeased Fu Hanzhou. Nan Zhi stares at her vibrating phone in disbelief as Fu Hanzhou delivers a cold, low-frequency command to abandon her current ride immediately. She glances out the window at the luxury sedan blocking their path, her patience wearing thin at the president's blatant disregard for social boundaries. With a sharp flick of her thumb, she ends the call and settles back into her seat, refusing to entertain his sudden display of dominance. Her heart skips a beat as Fu's vehicle suddenly lurches forward, threatening a high-speed collision if Zhi Lidong doesn't yield. Zhi Lidong maintains a calm grip on the steering wheel, noting that the president is willing to total a brand-new vehicle just to make a point. He offers a knowing smile to Nan Zhi, explaining that this reckless maneuver was simply a calculated test to gauge the depth of Fu's attachment. Zhi reflects on his previous conversations with Lu Xingxi, realizing that Nan Zhi has become an unprecedented variable in Fu Hanzhou's disciplined life. Nan Zhi rolls her eyes in pure exasperation, tired of being treated like a trophy in a high-stakes game of corporate ego. She storms out of the vehicle and slams the door with a resounding thud, deciding she's had enough of both men for one day. Ignoring the luxury cars behind her, she begins to march down the sidewalk with a determined, albeit limping stride. Pedestrians pause to watch the unfolding scene, whispering amongst themselves about whether they've stumbled onto a high-budget film set. Nan Zhi focuses on the pavement, mentally scolding herself for letting these elite social circles disrupt her professional composure. The throbbing pain in her ankle finally forces her to stop at a nearby bench, where she tries to assess the damage in the fading light. She looks up to find Fu Hanzhou standing over her, his towering silhouette casting a long, intimidating shadow across the concrete. Without uttering a single word of apology, he drops to one knee to perform a focused, clinical inspection of her injured joint. He ignores her protests and sweeps her off her feet, carrying her toward his vehicle with an intensity that brooks no further argument. He carefully settles her into the plush leather interior of his sedan, ensuring she is stabilized before the door clicks shut. The two sit in a heavy, suffocating silence as the driver pulls away from the curb and merges into the evening traffic. He reaches out and places her leg across his lap, intent on applying a medical compress to the visible swelling. Nan Zhi flinches and tries to withdraw, her face heating up from the unexpected and direct nature of his attention. He holds her foot steady with a firm grip, focused entirely on the technical task of reducing the inflammation with a cooling patch. He breaks the silence with a sharp critique, demanding to know if she planned on limping across the entire city on a damaged limb. Nan Zhi fires back with a sarcastic edge, reminding him that her current physical state is a direct result of his chaotic social connections. Fu's gaze remains icy as he counters that she has never been an innocent bystander in the complex dynamics between them. She turns her head toward the window, refusing to take responsibility for the irrational jealousy of the women in his life. She demands a logical explanation for his accusations, questioning how she could possibly be blamed for someone else's malice. The exhaustion of the day finally takes its toll, and she lets out a weary sigh as she leans her head back against the headdress. Watching the city lights blur into streaks of neon, she realizes that her proximity to his world is becoming a liability she can no longer afford. She delivers a final, quiet ultimatum, declaring that whatever professional or personal tether existed between them ends tonight. The driver clears his throat and interrupts the mounting tension to announce they have reached the gates of her residential complex. Nan Zhi steps out of the car without looking back, her voice level as she offers a curt thanks for the transportation. Fu Hanzhou remains seated in the shadows of the vehicle, his hand tightening into a fist as he watches her disappear into the building. She navigates the quiet hallway of her apartment, her mind racing with the need to re-establish her independence. A sudden chill runs down her spine as she enters her living room, her instincts screaming that something in her private space is out of alignment. She scans the corners of the room, reminding herself that Fu's security team recently swept the entire unit for surveillance devices. She catches her reflection in the glass, acknowledging that while Fu has provided protection, his world is far too dangerous for her to inhabit. She stands in the center of the room, unaware that the shadow of the man she just tried to leave is already looming behind her. Fu Hanzhou stands alone in the quiet of Nan Zhi's apartment, his presence dominating the small space as he examines her personal library. He pauses at a framed photograph, observing a younger version of the manager from several years ago. His phone illuminates the dim room, though his focus remains anchored to the details of her private life. A collection of travel photos on the shelf reveals a side of her he's never seen, showcasing a life lived far beyond the office walls. He offers a rare, subtle smile, noting the irony of a dedicated workaholic finding time for such extensive global travels. Settling onto the sofa with an air of absolute ownership, he decides to wait and see how long it takes for her to realize she's no longer alone. Emerging from the bathroom in fresh pajamas, Nan Zhi hums a soft tune, completely unaware of the intruder in her living room. Her heart nearly stops as she spots the president sitting on her couch, demanding to know how he bypassed her home security. Fu remains unfazed, explaining that his assistant replaced the lock he previously broke and provided him with a spare key. He stares her down with a cold, analytical gaze, criticizing her for her dangerous lack of vigilance regarding her own residence. Nan Zhi gestures wildly in frustration, arguing that having a key doesn't grant him the professional right to enter her home without permission. She stands her ground across the room, reminding him once again that she has officially terminated their previous arrangement. Ignoring her ultimatum, Fu holds out a set of legal documents and instructs her to review the contents immediately. She cautiously accepts the papers, her mind racing to identify what kind of corporate leverage he's deploying now. Her gaze falls upon the project fund totals, her professional composure beginning to crack under the weight of the numbers. Her eyes widen in genuine shock as she counts the zeros, realizing the debt involves a staggering 100 million. She sinks onto the sofa beside him, processing the reality that walking away from him would come with an impossible financial price tag. Fu looks her in the eye, mockingly asking if she has developed a strategy to wriggle out of such a massive contractual obligation. Realizing she's trapped, Nan Zhi reclines on the cushions and tells him to finish the necessary medical care so he can leave. She extends her injured foot toward him, signaling that she is ready for the technical application of the medication. He reaches out and secures her ankle with a firm, practiced grip to ensure the joint is stabilized for treatment. Nan Zhi lets out a sharp gasp at the sudden contact, her leg tensing as he positions her for the medical procedure. Fu ignores her reaction and prepares the medicinal spray, ordering her to stay still so the treatment can be applied accurately. He maintains a steady focus on the task at hand, carefully tending to the swelling with professional precision. Nan Zhi watches him in a daze, finding his silent dedication to her recovery far more confusing than a verbal confrontation. As the cooling medicine takes effect, the exhaustion of the day finally catches up to her, causing her eyelids to grow heavy. Fu continues to support her weight, his hand providing a constant, grounding presence as the treatment progresses. He notices her drifting towards sleep and asks if she has finally lost the strength to resist his presence. He leans over her, the intense focus in his eyes suggesting that the distance between them is rapidly disappearing. The proximity between the two reaches a fever pitch as they share a moment of profound personal connection, shattering the professional boundaries they both fought to maintain. The president maintains a steady, unwavering gaze as he assesses the visible toll the day's stress has taken on her. He ensures she remains comfortably supported, his presence acting as a grounding force amidst the quiet of the night. Fu leans in with a singular focus, his movements calculated to provide the necessary physical stabilization for her recovery. The intensity of the moment lingers as they share a quiet, profound connection that transcends their usual corporate friction. Morning light filters into the room, finding Nan Zhi as she slowly begins to stir from a deep, much-needed rest. She shifts under the covers, the realization of her surroundings slowly coming back into focus as the day begins. Still half asleep, she looks around with a dazed expression, her mind trying to bridge the gap between yesterday's chaos and this morning's calm. Fu approaches her with a quiet efficiency, offering a glass of water to help her rehydrate after the long night. Shaking off the last of her exhaustion, she makes a quick retreat toward the bathroom to prepare for the professional day ahead. Fu remains composed, watching her departure with a look that suggests he has no intention of leaving his post just yet. He stands by the expansive window, taking a moment to reflect on the city skyline while nursing a hot cup of coffee. Nan Zhi returns to the main room, surprised to find that the president has transitioned seamlessly into a domestic role. He gestures toward the kitchen island, where a simple but steaming meal is already waiting for her. She takes a tentative bite of the noodles, her eyes widening as she realizes the president possesses a surprisingly refined culinary skill. They share a rare, civil breakfast together, the typical office tension replaced by a temporary, quiet truce. Feeling satisfied, she offers a genuine smile of thanks, while Fu prepares to clear the table with practiced ease. She watches him closely, her gaze lingering on the man who continues to defy every one of her professional expectations. Fu pauses mid-motion, noticing her stare and questioning if there is more she wishes to discuss regarding their arrangement. She approaches him with a playful spark in her eye, jokingly suggesting that a photo of a CEO doing housework would be a media sensation. He counters with a sharp, knowing look, reminding her that his personal life is far more valuable than any tabloid could afford. Flustered by his quick wit, she quickly pivots the conversation to her upcoming academic schedule. She heads toward her workspace, leaving the president to finish his self-appointed domestic duties. Nan Zhi settles in with her glasses and notes, diving into a demanding French lesson to sharpen her international business skills. Sensing her struggle with a complex phrase, Fu steps in to offer his technical expertise on proper linguistic pronunciation. He recites the passage with a flawless accent, a reminder of the elite, global education he has received since childhood. She finds herself momentarily distracted, observing the effortless way he balances authority with genuine instruction. He continues the tutorial with a calm patience, ensuring she grasps the nuances of the foreign language. They fall into a steady rhythm of study, both fully committed to the goal of her professional self-improvement. Fu promises to coordinate more advanced study materials, intent on seeing her reach her full potential within the company. She looks up at him with a renewed sense of focus, realizing that his support is a resource she must utilize wisely. He reaches out with a steadying hand, emphasizing the importance of seizing every opportunity for growth. He leans in with a final, heavy promise, declaring that he is willing to provide whatever tools she needs to succeed. Fu Hanzhou towers over Nan Zhi with a gaze of absolute authority, promising that his resources can save her from a lifetime of professional struggle. Nan Zhi processes the gravity of his offer, realizing that seizing such an opportunity could secure her future for 10 lifetimes. She gently places her hand over his, admitting that the staggering $100 million debt creates a sense of inferiority she can't ignore. Fu raises a finger to his lips in a sharp gesture of silence, demanding that she listen to his perspective before making any further assumptions. She turns her gaze away, explaining that if she wanted an easy path to success, she would have abandoned her principles long ago. The president's eyes widen in genuine surprise, visibly stunned by her refusal to take the simple route he's provided. He shifts his focus toward the window, internally resolving that maintaining their current complex arrangement is the most logical path forward. Fu stands with a commanding presence, assuring her that any future obstacles she faces will be easily managed by his influence. Nan Zhi offers a faint, tired smile, relieved that his lack of personal attachment means he won't pressure her for more than she can give. A sudden vibration interrupts the quiet as her phone illuminates the table, signaling an urgent call on her scheduled day off. She answers the device with a professional tone, noting that her supervisor needs a document delivered to headquarters immediately. Without hesitation, she agrees to head into the office, her commitment to her career taking precedence over her need for rest. Fu watches her with a look of disapproval, questioning why she is prioritizing a minor administrative task over her own recovery. He stands tall and delivers a cold ultimatum, stating clearly that he has no intention of leaving her apartment while she is gone. Nan Zhi pauses in the doorway, her expression a mix of confusion and irritation at his refusal to respect her personal space. She begins to change out of her loungewear, maintaining a strictly focused demeanor as she prepares for the unexpected work assignment. As she adjusts her professional attire, she reminds him that in the corporate world, an assistant is expected to be on call at all times. Fu maintains his composure, though he critiques her boss's demands as an inhumane use of an employee's private time. He steps toward her with a firm resolve, insisting on providing transportation since her ankle injury has not yet fully healed. He hands her a pair of practical flats, ensuring she maintains her professional appearance without further aggravating her physical condition. Settled safely inside the luxury sedan, Nan Zhi offers a polite word of thanks for his unexpected assistance. Fu remains silent behind the wheel, his focused expression behind his glasses making it impossible to read his current mood. She glances at him tentatively, wondering if her insistence on working through her injury has caused a rift in their truce. The atmosphere in the car shifts instantly as he moves with a sudden, overwhelming intensity that leaves her momentarily breathless. He pulls back just enough to look her in the eye, noting with a smirk that her reactions are quite an interesting perk of their arrangement. Nan Zhi remains frozen in her seat, her heart racing as he leans in to personally ensure her safety belt is properly secured. With a sharp, mechanical click, he finishes the task and returns to his side of the vehicle, re-establishing their professional distance. She turns her head toward the passing scenery, her mind struggling to process the unpredictable shifts in his behavior. Breaking the heavy silence, she asks if a man of his immense power ever encounters things that simply don't go his way. Fu keeps his eyes locked on the road ahead, admitting with a short, clipped yes that even he is not immune to life's frustrations. She looks at him with genuine curiosity. Find it hard to believe that someone born with every advantage could ever want for anything. She quickly retracts the question, worried that she is overstepping the boundaries of their technical partnership. Fu adjusts his glasses with a clinical precision, advising her that she has every right to refuse duties that fall outside her professional scope. Nan Zhi checks her messages, explaining that she must work twice as hard as others just to maintain her standing in the company. The car lurches forward as the brakes are applied suddenly, the force of the stop pulling her against the seatbelt. Fu turns to her with a look of intense calculation, asking if she has finally considered leaving her current position to join the Fu group. Nan Zhi hesitates, quietly doubting if her current professional credentials would ever be enough to secure a high-ranking position within the elite Fu group. She keeps her hands clasped tightly in her lap, feeling the weight of the life-changing proposal hanging in the air between them. Fu Hanzhou counters her insecurity with a cold, hard truth, explaining that the glass ceiling of her current firm will always block her ambition due to their outdated corporate biases. She stares at him in silence, noting that this is already the second time today he has taken a direct interest in steering the course of her career. He leans closer into her personal space, making it clear that while his hiring standards are legendary, he is willing to make a personal exception for someone he values. A wave of confusion washes over her, as she wonders what it truly means to be singled out as different by a man of his stature. She looks away, her expression softening as she processes the unexpected intensity of his professional endorsement. Needing time to breathe, she offers a non-committal response, promising to give his recruitment offer the serious thought it deserves. Fu watches her intently, knowing that the seed of a new path has been planted in her mind regardless of her current hesitation. The car finally comes to a halt in front of the office, and Nan Zhi steps out with a promise to return as soon as she retrieves the necessary files. Fu remains in the driver's seat, his gaze fixed on her retreating figure as she disappears into the corporate building. His focus is interrupted by a sharp ringtone, and he checks his phone to find an incoming call from one of his high society associates. Xavier Liu wastes no time in reporting that the local socialites are already gossiping about his whereabouts, but Fu calmly dismisses the noise as a simple matter of working overtime. He ends the call with a look of bored indifference, clearly finished with the superficial drama of his social circle for the evening. Nan Zhi returns to the vehicle shortly after, suggesting that the president should move on to his own appointments now that her errand is nearly complete. Inside the lobby, Mandy Tang greets her with a warm smile, expressing her genuine gratitude for the extra effort of delivering the documents outside of normal hours. When Mandy offers a ride home, Nan Zhi politely declines, explaining that she already has transportation waiting for her outside. She becomes visibly flustered when her supervisor playfully teases her about whether the friend in the car is actually a romantic partner. Mandy reassures her with a knowing look, stating that she isn't the type of manager to interfere with the private lives of her talented staff. Realizing that any further explanation will only make the situation more awkward, Nan Zhi makes a quick exit to avoid further questioning. The supervisor watches her go, offering a final professional farewell before turning back to her own evening responsibilities. As she walks down the hall, she is joined by her husband, who curiously asks about the employee he just saw leaving the building. He mentions that the silhouette of the man waiting in the car bore a striking resemblance to the powerful Hugo Fu. Mandy scoffs at the idea, convinced that such a high-tier executive would never spend his time waiting on a junior employee in a mid-level firm. Outside, Nan Zhi approaches the luxury vehicle where the president is waiting patiently in the cool night air. Fu stands leaning against the car with an aura of effortless authority, the light of his lighter casting sharp shadows across his face. She pauses for a moment, struck by the sheer magnetic presence he commands even in the most mundane settings. Before she can speak, he moves with sudden precision, pulling her into a firm embrace that bridges the gap between them. He leans down until their faces are inches apart, his intense gaze searching hers with a focus that makes the rest of the world vanish. He holds her close, the physical proximity serving as a silent reminder of the complicated bond they've formed through their shared secrets. He breaks the silence with a low, challenging question, asking if she thinks the world would see them as a couple in this moment. Her heart pounds against her ribs as she warns herself to keep her guard up against the dangerous allure of his personal attention. Seeing her internal struggle, Fu asks what is wrong, his tone dropping to a level of genuine, focused concern. She quickly regains her composure and suggests they head back, desperate to re-establish the professional boundaries that are rapidly dissolving. He wordlessly takes her hand, his grip firm and protective as he guides her back toward the safety of the car. As they walk side by side, she tries to ignore the warmth of his touch, reminding herself that they belong to two completely different social strata. A few days pass, and Nan Zhi finds herself buried in an increased workload as she prepares to step into the manager's role she's worked so hard for. Her focus is suddenly pulled toward a commotion in the office, where a group of colleagues seems to be embroiled in a tense confrontation. Nan Zhi stops in her tracks as a loud confrontation erupts in the middle of the office. Angry wives swarm Mia Xiaoxiu, accusing her of unprofessional conduct with their husbands. Nan Zhi watches the chaos unfold, noting how quickly a reputation can crumble. She realizes Mrs. Liu has finally taken decisive action to protect her interests. Mi Xiaoxiu points an accusatory finger, blaming Nan Zhi for her public exposure. Maintaining her composure, Nan Zhi reminds her that consequences follow one's own actions. She steps forward with a formal lawyer's letter to address the previous defamation. Mi Xiaoxiu stares in disbelief as she is served with a legitimate legal challenge. Consumed by rage, the disgraced employee warns that Nan Zhi's high-level connections won't last. Nan Zhi ignores the outburst and orders the team to resume their professional duties. Bystanders whisper in awe of her firm management style and the changing office dynamic. Her colleague follows closely, praising the decisive way she handled the corporate internal conflict. Nan Zhi checks her schedule, eager to reconnect with her childhood friend later tonight. The group gathers at a luxury restaurant overlooking the city for their planned celebration. Song Xiuxiu arrives with a bright smile, offering a professional review of the venue. The friends prepare for a refined dining experience courtesy of the host's connections. A notification from Fu Hanzhou flashes on her screen, causing Nan Zhi a momentary pause. She quickly flips the phone face down to avoid any social scrutiny from her peers. Her friend notices the shift in behavior and teases her about the mysterious sender. The peaceful dinner is interrupted by Tang Jingxuan, who arrives with a condescending attitude. Song Xiuxiu immediately fires back, highlighting Tang's own social failures and lack of status. The tension escalates as the two women exchange sharp verbal barbs across the table. The confrontation turns heated, forcing Nan Zhi to try and mediate the rising conflict. A man steps in to intervene, commanding the attention of everyone in the immediate area. Tang Xiao introduces himself as Jingxuan's cousin, lending his authority to the situation. He turns his attention to Song Xiuxiu, surprised to see her back in the city. Song Xiuxiu leans in to whisper that the man was a persistent suitor during college. Tang Xiao apologizes for the rudeness and invites the group to his private room. He insists on the invitation, leading the reluctant friends toward the exclusive VIP area. The group enters the most prestigious suite in the establishment to settle the dispute. Tang Xiao notes that his influential friends are already inside and won't mind guests. Inside, Fu Hanzhou sits in the shadows, radiating a cold and formidable presence. Nan Zhi freezes in shock as she comes face to face with the man she just ignored. Fu remains silent, focused on his drink, while maintaining an air of detached authority. Tang Jingxuan immediately claims her proximity to him, asserting her supposed social standing. Just as Nan Zhi tries to slip away, Fu's voice cuts through the room, calling her back. She stops in her tracks, realizing that avoiding the president has become an impossible task. Tang Xiao acknowledges Nan Zhi's presence, noting that her career at the Winston Group is remarkably impressive for her age. He turns to Fu Hanzhou and suggests that the upcoming Chamber of Commerce event would be the perfect opportunity to collaborate with Nan Zhi's firm. Nan Zhi immediately recognizes the professional gravity of the suggestion, knowing a joint event could skyrocket her hotel's prestige. Fu maintains a cool, detached expression as he grants her permission to draft the proposal at her earliest convenience. Caught off guard by his sudden professional endorsement, she quickly regains her composure and promises to deliver the document as soon as possible. Tang Jingxuan attempts to sour the mood by bringing up Nan Zhi's former relationship with Charles Jiang in a petty attempt to cause a scene. Nan Zhi maintains her poise, coolly reminding the table that her past is irrelevant and suggesting Tang visit the man herself, if she is so concerned. Unfazed by the rebuff, Tang continues her verbal assault, sneering that Jiang's obsession with Nan Zhi is common knowledge. Fu Hanzhou shuts down the petty gossip with a single, sharp command to keep the conversation focused on relevant business matters. Nan Zhi leans in slightly, her voice a low whisper as she tries to navigate the suffocating social pressure of the VIP room. Tang Jingxuan fumes silently, viewing Nan Zhi's calm demeanor as a calculated act of hypocrisy designed to gain the president's favor. Desperate to reclaim her standing, Tang spins the conversation toward the menu, urging Fu to try the restaurant's signature wild Boston tuna. Fu completely bypasses Tang's offer, instead encouraging Nan Zhi to enjoy more of the meal since he noticed she liked the selection. Tang sits in a simmering rage, unable to comprehend why a man of Fu's stature would publicly favor a junior employee over her. Nan Zhi stares at her plate, wondering if the president is intentionally fueling the fire as a subtle punishment for her ignoring his earlier messages. Tang scoffs with elitist disdain, questioning if someone of Nan Zhi's background has ever even tasted high-quality sashimi before. Ignoring the insult, Nan Zhi directs the table's attention to the exceptional quality of the wild river shrimp being served. She handles her chopsticks with refined grace, lifting a piece of the rare seafood to demonstrate her own sophisticated palate. She offers a polite nod of appreciation to the staff, her technical knowledge of the dish impressing everyone at the table. With effortless precision, she describes how the sweet shrimp meat and savory paste create a complex flavor profile worth the trip. The surrounding guests and staff look on in genuine admiration, struck by her unexpected expertise in fine dining culture. Her composure pushes Tang over the edge, causing the socialite to lash out and accuse the women of being nothing more than gold diggers in fancy clothes. Tang Xiao immediately tries to intervene, warning his cousin that her drunken outburst is crossing a dangerous professional line. Nan Zhi calmly sets aside her napkin and wipes her hands, preparing to address the slander with clinical efficiency. She fixes Tang with a steady gaze, asking if she truly intends to insult the integrity of everyone Mr. Fu chooses to associate with. Fu Hanzhou sets his glass down with a chilling finality, declaring that the proposed business collaboration with the Tang family is now officially terminated. Panic sets in for Tang Xiao as he realizes cousin's lack of self-control has just cost the Tang group their most valuable partnership. He stands and offers a humble apology, desperately trying to shield his family's interests from the fallout of Tang's reckless words. Fu cuts him off with a cold stare, making it clear that his decision is final and no further apologies will change the outcome. Tang Xiao tries to salvage the evening's atmosphere for the other guests, though the tension in the room remains palpable. Nan Zhi watches the exchange, noting that while Tang Xiao is a skilled diplomat, even he cannot fix the damage done to their reputation. Tang Jingxuan stares in disbelief, unable to wrap her head around the fact that Fu would sever a long-standing family tie over this confrontation. Consumed by jealousy and shock, she stands up and demands to know if Fu has let a temporary attraction cloud his legendary business judgment. A heavy silence settles over the VIP suite as the onlookers process the total destruction of the Tang family's business prospects. Tang Xiao's mind races with panic, wondering if his cousin has finally pushed her luck too far and invited a social death sentence. He looks at her with a mixture of shock and frustration, realizing that their long-standing friendship with the president has reached its breaking point. Without a second thought, he grabs her arm and begins dragging her toward the exit to salvage what little dignity remains. Sensing the volatility of the situation, the other guests decide it's best to depart before the fallout spreads any further. As the room clears, high-level executives immediately swarm Nan Zhi, eager to exchange business cards now that she has the president's public endorsement. Her friend watches in awe, noting that they've managed to secure more elite professional contacts in one night than they have in their entire careers. Nan Zhi remains focused on the task at hand, knowing that today's networking victory is just the beginning of a much larger corporate game. Fu Hanzhou leans in close, his voice dropping to a low, clinical tone as he questions why she chose to ignore his messages earlier. She tries to maintain a professional distance, but he continues to draw closer, demanding an explanation for her sudden silence. He whispers that he prefers a more direct style of communication, making it clear that avoiding him is no longer an option. Caught off guard by his sudden intensity, Nan Zhi struggles to maintain her composure under his calculated scrutiny. He calls her out on what he perceives as a deliberate act of professional avoidance, his gaze never wavering from hers. She turns her head away, her mind racing to find a logical defense for her behavior that won't compromise her standing. He interrupts her thoughts with a sharp focus, advising her to stop overthinking and simply focus on the meal in front of her. As she eats, he asks if she plans to turn her back on their arrangement now that she's successfully secured a stack of business cards. Nan Zhi defensively chews her food, insisting that her professional gains were the result of her own technical expertise and social grace. To regain her undivided attention, he reaches out and firmly pinches her sleeve to stop her from turning away mid-conversation. Startled by the sudden physical contact, she jumps in her seat and demands to know the reason for such a bold gesture. She huffs in frustration, declaring that she is finished dealing with his unpredictable and demanding nature for the night. He takes a serious tone, warning her that next time she encounters a socialite like Gillian, she should simply ignore the bait to avoid further complications. He is left speechless for a moment when she counters that the friction only started because he failed to maintain proper communication first. She scoffs at his reasoning, wondering if his lack of support during previous confrontations was also part of some elaborate test. She tries to reason with him, tugging at her sleeve to signal that their debate has reached a stalemate. He looks at her with a knowing, almost gentle expression, suggesting that she is the one intentionally creating an unnecessary rift between them. A flicker of genuine disappointment crosses his face when she suggests that keeping their professional connection strictly private is the only logical choice for the future. Without another word, he stands up from the table and prepares to leave, instructing her to put the final bill on his personal account. Nan Zhi watches his retreating figure with a look of pure confusion, unable to track the rapid shifts in his temperament. Out in the parking lot, Tang Xiao continues to forcibly escort his cousin away from the scene of her social ruin. Tang Jingxuan remains in a state of defiant rage, refusing to acknowledge how her outburst has jeopardized her family's entire corporate future. Her cousin rubs his head in exhaustion, realizing that the task of repairing their reputation with the Fu group will be nearly impossible. He walks away in total disgust, warning her that her reckless behavior has officially made her a liability to the Tang family interests. Left alone in the cold night air, Tang Jingxuan seethes with a newfound, burning hatred for the woman who caused her disgrace. Her eyes fill with tears of frustration as she vows to find a way to strip Nan Zhi of her newfound professional status. She pulls out her phone and places a call to a private investigator, ordering a deep dive into every detail of Nan Zhi's background at the Winston Group. Nan Zhi finally returns home, clicking the lock to secure her sanctuary for the night. Suddenly, a hand emerges from the darkness, reaching out with startling precision. She gasps in shock as she is pulled backward, her heart racing at the sudden intrusion. Struggling against the grip, she realizes the shadow is none other than Fu Hanzhou himself. She pushes against his chest, demanding to know if he has completely lost his mind. Fu maintains a calm, almost amused expression, unfazed by her frantic reaction. Nan Zhi stands her ground, questioning why he hasn't left to attend to his own urgent business. He leans in close as she reaches for the keypad, his presence a constant, looming shadow. Exhausted from the day's events, she heads toward the kitchen, hoping for a moment of peace. He quickly blocks her path, stating his intention to make up for the time they missed over the weekend. A smirk plays on his lips as he mentions his own high-stakes acquisition case to overshadow her routine schedule. Despite her best efforts to move past him, he refuses to budge even a single inch. Internally, she fumes at his arrogance. Realizing the rumors of his stoic nature are far from the truth, she raises her phone, threatening to document his unprofessional behavior and expose his true colors. He remains entirely nonchalant, casually checking his own device while dismissing her threats. Nan Zhi shakes with anger, frustrated by his ability to pivot between cold and warm at a moment's notice. She relents and heads into the kitchen to prepare a meal, with him trailing closely behind. Without warning, he catches her off guard, ending her focus on the kitchen tasks. He hoists her over his shoulder with effortless strength, ignoring her protests as he heads for the stairs. He carefully places her down on the bed, asserting his dominance over the evening's itinerary. Standing tall, he informs her that he has already made logistical arrangements for her at his residence. She sits on the edge of the mattress, feeling the weight of his demanding presence in her personal space. He leans over her to emphasize his point, promising to have his assistant deliver her essentials tomorrow. A shiver runs down her spine as she pleads for a reprieve, citing her immense physical exhaustion. He seems to soften for a moment, his own fatigue showing as he closes his eyes. He eventually sits up and announces his plan to shower, warning her not to attempt an exit. Left alone, she mutters about the absurdity of running away from her own apartment. She decides to utilize her time productively by preparing a pot of hangover soup in the kitchen. She pauses mid-stir, questioning why she instinctively prepared a second bowl for her uninvited guests. Her eyes widen in surprise when he reappears from the bathroom, catching her off guard once again. He stands there drying his hair, his direct questions about the technicalities of his attire causing her to fluster. He continues to dry himself with a towel, radiating a sense of refreshed, calm authority. To avoid further conversation, she focuses intently on drinking her soup, hoping the night ends soon. A sharp ringtone pierces the quiet of the kitchen as Fu Hanzhou stands by the counter. He glances down at the illuminated screen, seeing a persistent incoming call from Xavier Liu. Fu's expression hardens into a cold glare when he hears Xavier use a mockingly familiar nickname for Nan Zhi. He maintains his composure, casually continuing his task at the sink, while informing his friend that he's busy with domestic chores. The CEO's patience thins as he listens to the teasing remarks coming through the speaker. On the other end, Xavier laughs off the tension, clearly amused by the idea of the powerful executive performing such mundane tasks. Fu dries his hands with a towel, his focus shifting back to the serious business matters at hand. His brow furrows as Xavier delivers the news that Jiang Shi is likely facing a heavy prison sentence for his recent corporate crimes. Nan Zhi suddenly appears in the doorway, prompting Fu to abruptly end the call and hide the details of the conversation. She reaches for a towel to dry her own damp hair, but Fu stops her, insisting on taking over the task himself. A look of genuine concern crosses her face as she asks if the legal fallout from Jiang's case will eventually implicate her as well. He dismisses her fears with technical certainty, directing her to find the hairdryer so they can move on. He leads her toward the living area, his movements firm and decisive as he takes charge of the evening's routine. As they settle onto the sofa, he reveals that the Jiang family's influence will be completely dismantled by the time the 8-year sentence is served. The hum of the hairdryer fills the room as he carefully tends to her hair, while she worries about potential retaliation in the distant future. He pauses, searching her expression for any lingering emotional attachment to the man who betrayed her. Nan Zhi scoffs at the suggestion, making it clear that her past feelings have long since been replaced by professional pragmatism. Fu continues his steady work with the dryer, questioning why she ever agreed to a relationship with someone so beneath her standards. He falls into a calculated silence, his focus remaining entirely on the technical task of finishing her hair. She watches him through the mirror, wondering if his intense interrogation is actually fueled by a sense of professional jealousy. A faint, knowing smirk appears on his face as he chides her for having such a bold and overactive imagination. Frustrated by his cryptic attitude, she marches toward the bedroom to end the day on her own terms. She pulls the heavy duvet up to her chin, attempting to establish a final boundary for the night. As he settles nearby, she notices a distinct, sophisticated scent that seems to differ from the standard products in her bathroom. The quiet is shattered once more when a phone on the bedside table begins to vibrate with an urgent call. Nan Zhi answers the device, only to be met with a woman's sharp, demanding voice questioning why she is in possession of Fu Hanzhou's personal phone. Nan Zhi stares at the vibrating device in her hand, her pulse quickening as she realizes she's just intercepted a personal call meant for the CEO. Fu Hanzhou immediately closes the distance, his presence a heavy weight as he monitors her interaction with the mysterious caller. He leans down to whisper up instruction, telling her that since she was bold enough to answer, she can deal with the consequences. She shoots him a look of pure annoyance, frustrated that he's forcing her to navigate his messy social entanglements. Regaining her composure, she sits up and adopts a perfectly polished tone, informing the caller that Mr. Fu is currently unavailable. She doubles down on the deception, identifying herself as Vicky, the newest secretary tasked with managing the president's hectic schedule. The moment she ends the call, she turns back to Fu and questions why he isn't more concerned about a woman claiming to be stranded intoxicated. He ignores the question entirely, reaching out to reclaim his phone, while effectively blocking her from leaving the conversation. His gaze intensifies as he demands to know why she felt entitled to touch his personal property, without explicit authorization. Nan Zhi remains silent, wondering if this sudden interrogation is just another calculated power move in his ongoing corporate games. She firmly pushes his hands away, arguing that he has a moral obligation to ensure the safety of his associates, regardless of the hour. Across town, Jillian Tang slams her drink down in a fit of pique, outraged that a mere assistant had the audacity to hang up on her. Her companion quickly interjects, holding up a smartphone to distract the socialite with a new lead on their target. Gillian snatches the device, her eyes scanning a detailed dossier provided by a private investigator regarding Nan Zhi's family history. A cold, predatory smile spreads across her face as she notes the vulnerabilities in Nan Zhi's background at the Winston Group. She vows to use every scrap of this technical data to dismantle Nan Zhi's reputation and settle the score for her earlier public humiliation. The next morning, Nan Zhi reaches across the mattress only to find the space beside her already cold and vacant. She checks her notifications, marveling at the fact that Fu is already operational despite the exhausting events of the previous night. She finds him in the main room, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit and ready to execute the day's high-stakes agenda. She eyes him suspiciously, wondering if his presence with a suitcase indicates another sudden departure for a regional acquisition. He offers her a quick breakfast while explaining that the luggage contains his professional essentials for his extended stay at her residence. Nan Zhi is momentarily stunned by his audacity, unable to fathom why a billionaire would choose her modest apartment over his own estate. As she prepares for her own shift, she pauses to ask if he used his industry influence to secure her company's spot in the upcoming bidding war. Fu assists her with her trench coat, maintaining a strictly professional demeanor as he discusses the Winston Group's market potential. He admits that he respects her refusal to use personal connections to bypass standard corporate protocols. She offers a confident smile, declaring that she fully intends to secure the project based on the technical merits of her proposal alone. He leans in to offer a final bit of strategic advice, his focus remaining entirely on their shared professional interests for the day. Maintaining her independence, she politely declines his offer of a ride and heads toward the door to take her own vehicle. Fu stands in the quiet hallway, his expression unreadable as he watches her leave to face the corporate world on her own terms. His phone rings again, and his voice drops to a chilling, clinical tone as he orders a final update on the legal proceedings against Jiang Qi. Mrs. Jiang sits alone in the dim light of her kitchen, her voice trembling as she begs her business contacts to save her son from impending ruin. Her blood runs cold when the voice on the other end suggests that Charles has crossed a line with the powerful Fu family. Realizing that her family's legacy is crumbling before her eyes, she collapses over the table in a state of total emotional defeat. The sudden ring of her phone jolts her back to reality, and she answers with a weary voice, only to find Gillian Tang on the line. Mrs. Jiang's expression shifts to one of desperate calculation as she agrees to follow Gillian's ruthless advice to strike back. Meanwhile, Nan Zhi arrives at the Yang residence for dinner, unaware of the hostile atmosphere brewing among the gathered guests. Joel Chu greets her with genuine enthusiasm, pulling her toward the table while expressing how much he's missed her since graduation. Across the table, Yuki watches the warm interaction with a cold, piercing glare that suggests she is far from over their past grievances. Uncle Yang attempts to maintain a professional atmosphere, raising a glass to thank Nan Zhi for her composure during the recent family scandal. The peaceful meal is shattered when Yuki slams her bowl onto the table in a fit of jealous rage. Uncle Yang slams his hands down in response, his voice booming as he demands that Yuki start behaving like a proper student. Defiant to the end, Yuki thrusts her phone forward to reveal a photo she believes will dismantle Nan Zhi's virtuous reputation. The screen displays a grainy image of Nan Zhi with Liu Si, framed to look like a clandestine and unprofessional meeting. Joel and Uncle Yang are momentarily stunned into silence, their technical assessment of Nan Zhi's character wavering under the weight of the visual evidence. Yuki scoffs at their hesitation, insisting that Nan Zhi is merely a calculated manipulator who uses people for her own gain. With a swift, decisive motion, Nan Zhi snatches the device away before Yuki can continue her verbal assault. Nan Zhi immediately recognizes Gillian Tang's fingerprints all over this amateur attempt at character assassination. She calmly explains that the photo only captured a moment of professional assistance after she had severely twisted her ankle. Uncle Yang's patience finally snaps, and he orders Yuki to apologize for her disgraceful and baseless accusations. Yuki refuses to yield, her eyes filling with tears of frustration as she declares that she will never acknowledge Nan Zhi as part of the family. She storms away from the dinner table, leaving the remaining guests to process the fallout of her public outburst. Nan Zhi remains entirely unfazed, continuing her meal with a clinical focus that proves Gillian's petty tactics have failed to rattle her. Across the city, Fu Hanzhou navigates the rain-slicked streets, his assistant struggling to keep pace while shielding him with an umbrella. The assistant notes Fu's icy demeanor as the CEO flatly refuses to grant Gillian Tang even a single moment of his time. Fu checks his watch with a look of quiet anticipation, deciding that his personal obligations at home take priority over corporate networking. A stray kitten suddenly emerges from the shadows, huddling against Fu's expensive footwear to escape the downpour. In a rare display of quiet empathy, the powerful executive crouches down to lift the shivering animal from the cold pavement. He instructs his bewildered assistant to farrago the pet shop and simply purchase the necessary supplies for the kitten's immediate care. The following morning, Nan Zhi arrives at the office, her mind drifting to Fu's uncharacteristic absence after his promise to move in. Her train of thought is broken when she accidentally collides with a mysterious man in a cap, sending her belongings scattering across the floor. The stranger immediately drops to the ground to help her retrieve her items, his face obscured by the brim of his hat. Nan Zhi offers a polite apology for her distraction, while the man maintains a strictly silent and efficient focus on the task. She watches him walk away with a lingering sense of suspicion, questioning if he is truly just another employee at the Winston Group. An associate quickly approaches her to discuss the technical logistics of an upcoming high-profile corporate event. The conversation is cut short when Nan Zhi notices a group of uniformed officers making a direct path through the lobby. A heavy silence falls over the office as the lead investigator reaches out to open the door to Nan Zhi's department. The officer presents his official identification, stating that they have received a report alleging her involvement in a serious criminal case. Nan Zhi's mind races as she wonders if Jiangxi's legal downfall has been engineered to pull her into the crosshairs as well. Panicked by the sudden escalation, her colleague immediately places an urgent call to Fu Hanzhou to report that Nan Zhi is being taken into police custody. Nan Zhi sits tensely in the cold interrogation room, asking if her presence is required for the ongoing investigation into Jiangxi's corporate crimes. The officer presents a sealed bag containing a suspicious white substance, claiming it was discovered inside her personal belongings. Horror washes over her face as she vehemently denies ownership of the contraband, offering to undergo immediate medical testing to prove her innocence. Her eyes narrow in realization as she recalls the suspicious man who deliberately collided with her at the office earlier that morning. She stands up with renewed determination, urging the officer to review the building's surveillance footage to identify the person who planted the evidence. Left alone in the shadows of the holding room, she huddles into herself, realizing the Jiang family's desperation has reached a dangerous new peak. The digital clock on the wall ticks away the hours, marking the excruciating wait for the technical verification of her statement. As the evening deepens, Nan Zhi remains trapped in the silent room, her anxiety growing as she wonders if her defense has hit a legal dead end. The heavy door finally swings open, and the officer informs her that the evidence has been cleared and she is free to leave the station. She steps out into the pouring rain, feeling the crushing weight of the day's trauma as she stares blankly into the dark streets. A familiar, polished figure steps into view, shielding her from the downpour with a large black umbrella. Her breath catches in her throat when she realizes that Fu Hanzhou has been waiting outside for her release this entire time. He reaches out to steady her, his voice low and firm as he assures her that the ordeal is finally over. Overwhelmed by the sudden release of tension, she collapses into his arms, finally letting out the fear she had been suppressing. He holds her steady against the cold wind, providing a rare moment of silent, protective support amidst the storm. She hides her face against his expensive suit, the damp fabric absorbing her tears as she struggles to regain her professional composure. Fu maintains a protective stance, teasing her about the state of his attire to distract her from the lingering shock of the arrest. He looks down at her with a calm, observant gaze, making sure she is physically stable before they move toward the car. The heavy silence is suddenly broken by the loud, persistent growl of her stomach, signaling her body's demand for a meal. Flushed with embarrassment, she admits her hunger, her expression softening as she shifts her focus from legal drama to basic survival. A faint, genuine smile plays on his lips as he asks her to name any restaurant she desires for their late-night dinner. Instead of a high-end establishment, they arrive at a vibrant outdoor food market, the bright lights reflecting off the wet pavement. Without a hint of hesitation, the powerful CEO bends down to manually clean a wooden stool for her at a humble street stall. She watches him in disbelief, questioning how a man of his stature could be so comfortable in such a casual environment. As they settle in, she explains that her preference for these stalls stems from her student days spent near a local piano studio. She stares past the city lights, reminiscing about the tangled power lines and narrow alleys of the old district where she grew up. Fu listens intently, shocking her with the admission that he is also intimately familiar with the atmosphere of such neighborhoods. Her eyes widen as she tries to reconcile his current billionaire status with the image of him navigating a gritty urban district. The vendor arrives with a steaming tray of grilled skewers, the savory aroma filling the small space between them. She urges him to join her, feeling a bit awkward about being the only one participating in the feast. Fu leans in and casually takes a bite from the skewer in her hand, his unexpected move catching her completely off guard. Nan Zhi fumes at his playful theft of her food, while Fu remains entirely unbothered by her sudden outburst of indignation. She gestures to the full tray on the table, demanding to know why he had to take a piece from her specific portion. Her face scrunches in a display of genuine annoyance, her defensive barriers returning after the emotional vulnerability of the police station. A low chuckle escapes him as he compares her fierce demeanor to a wild cat that uses its claws to hide a much more fragile interior. She eventually relents and focuses on finishing the meal, the warmth of the food finally calming her frazzled nerves. A short time later, only empty wooden sticks remain on the tray, marking the end of their impromptu late-night excursion. He stands and suggests they return to her apartment, cryptically mentioning that someone is already there waiting for his arrival. As they walk through the quiet streets, she wonders who could possibly be at the residence at such an ungodly hour. Upon entering the foyer, he directs her toward the bathroom to take a hot shower and wash away the chill of the rain. She hesitates, her curiosity piqued as she looks around for the mysterious guest he mentioned earlier. Fu offers a knowing look, clarifying that she was the one he was waiting for all along. Fu Hanzhou guides Nan Zhi into the apartment, the quiet atmosphere immediately interrupted by a tiny, furry presence waiting at the door. Nan Zhi's eyes widen as she spots a small, wide-eyed kitten peering back at her with innocent curiosity. Fu extends the shivering animal toward her, revealing that this was the unexpected guest he had mentioned earlier. Feeling a sudden wave of awkwardness, Nan Zhi quickly excuses herself to the bathroom to wash away the remnants of her stressful day. Inside, she mentally chides herself, wondering if her sudden hesitation was actually a strange flash of jealousy toward a pet. Meanwhile, Fu holds the kitten with a rare, gentle expression, noting the striking similarity between the feisty creature and Nan Zhi. Emerging in her loungewear, Nan Zhi finds Fu focused on a book, his presence providing a stabilizing force in the room. He pulls her into a firm, protective embrace, offering the silent emotional support she needs after the day's interrogation. The sudden proximity leaves her momentarily stunned, her mind racing to process this shift in their professional dynamic. He breaks the silence by handing her a bowl of warm ginger soup, insisting she drink it to prevent any illness from the cold rain. She takes a cautious sip, the heat of the liquid finally beginning to thaw the internal chill from her brush with the law. Nearby, the kitten settles into a makeshift bed, its frantic energy replaced by the rhythmic breathing of a deep sleep. Fu maintains a watchful eye over both of them, his focus entirely on ensuring a calm and safe environment for the night. Nan Zhi sits beside him, marveling at how the powerful CEO is treating her with such unexpected and careful consideration. He places the kitten aside to give Nan Zhi his full attention, asserting that she is the only one who deserves such dedicated care in his presence. She looks away, her heart stirring at his ability to say exactly what she needs to hear with such blunt honesty. Gathering her courage, she asks if he plans to investigate the details of the malicious frame-up at the office. Fu leans in with a look of cold determination, promising to personally oversee the resolution of the matter and protect her reputation. She pulls the duvet up to her chin and offers a quiet word of thanks, finally feeling the weight of the world lift from her shoulders. He watches her for a moment longer, his gaze sharp and calculating as he plans his next move against those who dared to target her. With a soft click of the door, he exits the room to allow her the restorative rest she so desperately requires. Nan Zhi drifts off to sleep, comforted by the profound realization that someone finally trusts and supports her unconditionally. Late into the night, Fu stands before a window overlooking the city, his silhouette framed by the glowing skyline as he initiates a high-stakes call. He delivers a chilling set of instructions, ordering the total termination of all corporate cooperation with the Tang Group, and the legal downfall of the Jiang family. The following morning, a colleague rushes over to show Nan Zhi the breaking news regarding Mrs. Jiang's high-profile arrest for defamation. Nan Zhi scans the digital headline, knowing instinctively that Fu's technical precision was the catalyst for such a swift victory. As they walk through the lobby, the once hostile whispers of her coworkers are replaced by a respectful and cautious silence. Her morning routine is interrupted when Joel Chu appears, his casual attire standing out against the corporate backdrop. He playfully reminds her of her previous promise to treat him to a meal once he secured a new professional position. Seeing a rare gap in her schedule, Nan Zhi agrees to fulfill the favor, welcoming the chance for a normal social interaction. Joel beams with excitement, leading the way as they head out for their long-awaited lunch engagement. The pair navigates the streets with a lighthearted energy, momentarily leaving the stresses of the corporate world behind. They settle into a bright restaurant, the table filled with vibrant, spicy dishes that recall their shared history as students. Joel laughs while reminiscing about the past, his genuine warmth helping Nan Zhi relax after her recent legal ordeal. However, the atmosphere shifts when Fu Hanzhou enters the same establishment, his sharp eyes immediately locking onto the pair. He stops in his tracks, watching from a distance as Nan Zhi shares a seemingly intimate conversation with her former classmate. Without a word, he pulls out his phone to execute a tactical check on her current whereabouts. Nan Zhi's phone buzzes on the tabletop, the vibration cutting through the restaurant's ambient noise. Panic surges through her as she reads the direct message from Fu, realizing her attempt to keep her social life private has just hit a major snag. Across the room, Fu watches her reaction with a dark, knowing smirk, ready to confront her about her claim of working overtime. Joel Chu walks Nan Zhi to her doorstep, expressing his genuine gratitude for their pleasant dinner engagement. He offers a lighthearted suggestion that they should consider a permanent partnership if her reputation is truly at risk from her rivals. Nan Zhi immediately dismisses the idea, clarifying that a traditional marriage does not align with her current personal goals. She shakes her head with a confident smile, asserting that her self-reliance and self-love are her highest priorities. Unbeknownst to them, Fu Hanzhou is observing the entire interaction from the cold shadows of a nearby vehicle. His expression remains clinical and unreadable, his eyes narrowing as he processes the scene unfolding before him. Nan Zhi enters her darkened apartment alone, completely unaware that she is about to face a far more intense confrontation. She suddenly tenses up, her gaze locking onto a mysterious silhouette seated in the middle of her living room. Fu Hanzhou sits with an air of quiet authority, calmly closing a book as if he were the rightful owner of the space. Nan Zhi lets out a weary sigh, warning him that his unauthorized entry is beginning to test her professional patience. He moves with lightning speed, gripping her hand to prevent her from retreating further into the room. He pulls her into his immediate personal space, demanding a technical explanation for the man he saw her with outside. She holds his gaze with a defiant spark, questioning if his sudden interrogation is fueled by simple curiosity or deep-seated jealousy. He maintains a firm but controlled hold on her arms, refusing to let her dodge the details of her evening. He pulls her into a sudden, protective embrace, his voice dropping to a low rumble as he confronts her about the lie regarding her overtime. Nan Zhi attempts to soothe his suspicion, explaining that the meeting was merely a casual social obligation to a former neighbor. She offers a polite, conciliatory gesture to his cheek, hoping to bridge the sudden distance between them. The two remain locked in a close-quarters discussion, the dim lighting reflecting the high stakes of their current dynamic. Fu Hanzhou's physical composure remains entirely unshaken, his gaze fixed on her with an unreadable intensity. Nan Zhi looks down in quiet contemplation, realizing that her usual methods of de-escalation are failing to impact his mood. He decisively lifts her into a carry to move her away from the entrance, chiding her for her consistently evasive behavior. He ensures she is settled comfortably as he prepares to finalize the details of their arrangement for the night. They share a brief moment of silent, mutual understanding as the chaotic energy of the day finally dissipates. Fu offers a rare, subtle smirk, his voice taking on an authoritative tone, as he sets the final terms for their interaction. The following morning, he carefully places a tray of freshly prepared breakfast on the bedside table for her. Nan Zhi burrows deeper into the blankets, her muffled voice pleading for a few more moments of restorative rest. He watches her with a look of quiet amusement, noting the stark contrast to her usual high-pressure professional persona. She pulls him close for a quick, appreciative goodbye before he departs for his high-level corporate meetings. Fu arrives at a luxurious estate, finding his grandfather already seated for a formal morning meal with a distressed guest. He maintains a strictly professional demeanor, questioning why the guest chose to bypass his authority to seek family mediation. He offers a polite bow to his grandfather, while remaining firm in his decision to terminate all ties with the offending parties. The young woman at the table stands up in a state of visible shock, as Fu refuses to grant her any personal leniency. He delivers a final, chilling assessment, advising her to accept her fate before the legal system takes full control of her future. The woman collapses to her knees, the reality of her total corporate and personal ruin finally setting in. She stares into the void with wide, terrified eyes, realizing that her attempts to sabotage Nan Zhi have backfired completely. Meanwhile, Nan Zhi discusses the technical logistics of a mandatory company costume event over the phone with a colleague. She tentatively tries on a required school uniform costume, feeling a significant lack of professional confidence in the attire. Her eyes widen in panic as the sound of the front door opening echoes through the quiet apartment. She frantically hides behind the door frame, shouting for the intruder to halt their advance until she can change her clothes. Fu Hanzhou steps into the room with a confused expression, wondering why Nan Zhi is acting so defensively about her current choice of attire. He leans in close, whispering a playful yet firm remark about her choosing to wear the uniform in his presence. Nan Zhi shoots him a weary look, calling out his behavior as she tries to maintain her professional composure during the debate. The air between them grows heavy with a shared, silent focus as he moves closer to bridge the remaining distance. They share a quiet moment of reconciliation, the intensity of their connection momentarily overshadowing the corporate drama of the day. A sudden flashback reveals a younger Fu Hanzhou standing in a school hallway, his focus seemingly drifting away from his academic responsibilities. He gazes through a window at a distant figure, mesmerized by the graceful movements of a girl practicing her dance routine. A look of genuine shock crosses his face as he realizes the sheer talent and dedication of the performer he is observing. His teacher interrupts the moment, questioning if the young master has completed his assigned practice questions for the day. The instructor reviews the math exam, noting that while Fu's logic is sound, his approach to solving problems is far more complex than necessary. Outside, the vibrant greenery of the school campus provides a peaceful backdrop to the rigorous academic atmosphere. The shifting light through the window panes highlights the passage of time as the tutoring session continues. The teacher mentions a talented young cellist who often practices in the music room, piquing Fu's hidden curiosity. Without a second thought, Fu stands up and leaves the lesson, driven by an inexplicable urge to find the source of the music. His footsteps echo through the empty corridor as he makes a direct path toward the upper floors of the building. He reaches the door of the music studio, the rhythmic notes of a cello guiding him toward a destined encounter. As he pushes the door open, a bright light spills out from within, marking the beginning of a memory that would stay with him forever. In the present day, Fu's eyes flutter open as he slowly transitions from the vivid dream back to the quiet reality of the bedroom. He finds Nan Zhi looking down at him with a gentle expression, her presence a comforting anchor after his trip down memory lane. He pulls her into a steady embrace, his focus shifting back to the domestic tranquility of their shared morning. Nan Zhi eventually moves to the edge of the bed, feeling a wave of uncharacteristic shyness after their close interaction. He watches her with a confident, knowing smirk, clearly amused by her sudden change in demeanor after their previous intense interaction. Later, at a local supermarket, Fu advises her to wear a mask to protect her privacy from any lurking corporate rivals. She adjusts the pink mask over her face, questioning the necessity of such a cautious measure in a public space. She playfully insists that he should also wear a mask to avoid being recognized as the high-profile CEO he is. Fu looks down at her with an authoritative gaze, questioning what kind of reward he might receive for following her instructions. Nan Zhi resorts to a playful, pleading expression, hoping her charm will convince him to cooperate with her safety plan. He finally relents with a faint smile, allowing her to take charge of his public appearance for the duration of the shopping trip. Nearby shoppers whisper in admiration, completely captivated by the seemingly perfect and sweet dynamic between the two. As she adjusts the strap of his mask, their eyes lock in a moment of mutual understanding, proving that even a routine errand can hold significant weight. Fu leans in close, his mask barely hiding the intensity of his gaze as he captures Na's undivided attention. He begins walking ahead with a cool confidence, leaving her to scramble after him through the crowded grocery aisle. She eventually catches up to his side, her expression a mix of lingering shyness and defensive posturing. Without warning, he hoists her up over his shoulder, a playful display of strength that catches her completely off guard. She protests the sudden lift, her professional dignity taking a temporary backseat to his unpredictable whims. Surrounding shoppers cast curious glances at the pair, witnessing a rare moment of lighthearted chaos between the two. They eventually settle at the produce stand, where he focuses on the practical task of selecting fresh ingredients for their meal. She watches him closely, her thoughts swirling with the realization of how effortlessly he handles these quiet, domestic moments. He gestures toward a nearby shopping cart, jokingly suggesting she take a seat inside to make the trip easier. She immediately shuts down the childish idea, reminding him that such behavior is strictly reserved for toddlers. He gives a slight shake of his head, seemingly amused by her insistence on maintaining decorum, even while shopping for groceries. She turns her focus back to the shelves, her eyes scanning the aisles for the remaining items on her list. Panic suddenly strikes as she grabs his arm, having spotted a familiar face from her office further down the aisle. She urgently tells him they must keep a safe distance, fearing that being seen together would spark an uncontrollable corporate scandal. She quickly pulls out her phone to send him technical instructions via text, hoping to coordinate their movements discreetly. Glancing at his back, she worries if her sudden need for secrecy has genuinely offended his sense of authority. She catches up to him once more, attempting to smooth over the tension with a more cooperative and cheerful tone. Her heart skips a beat when a voice calls out her name, forcing her to face the very person she was trying to avoid. Mason, he from the finance department, approaches with a friendly smile, completely unaware of the high-stakes situation he has interrupted. In a moment of desperate improvisation, she introduces the powerful CEO as nothing more than her visiting cousin. Fu's gaze turns icy as he endures the awkward introduction, his patience clearly wearing thin under the false identity. Mason extends a hand and notes the impressive quality of Fu's watch, mistaking it for a genuine limited edition luxury model. She frantically interjects, claiming the expensive timepiece is just a cheap knockoff to prevent Mason from growing suspicious of his true status. The coworker continues his unwanted analysis, even commenting on Fu's athletic build with an overly familiar and unprofessional tone. To her horror, Mason decides to join their shopping excursion, turning their private outing into an incredibly awkward trio. She mentally prepares for a disaster, her internal stress levels skyrocketing as they navigate the shelves together. She offers a silent, pleading look to Fu, begging him to maintain the cousin charade just until they can escape. He shoots her a sharp, knowing look that promises a very thorough discussion about this deception once they return home. Mason continues to boast about being in the prime of his life, completely oblivious to the powerful man standing right next to him. Fu scoffs quietly behind his mask, finding the younger man's attempt at social posturing to be utterly transparent and pathetic. They finally arrive at the checkout counter, the tension reaching a boiling point as the items are scanned by the clerk. Fu reaches for his wallet to present his exclusive black card, a move that would immediately blow their cover to anyone watching. She lunges forward to stop him, insisting that they use a simple mobile QR code for payment to avoid any unnecessary attention. He eventually yields to her request, allowing her to handle the transaction while he maintains a silent, brooding presence. Mason continues the interrogation, asking what kind of odd jobs her cousin typically performs for a living. When Mason offers to help find him a more stable job opportunity, she quickly maneuvers them toward the exit to end the encounter. They make a hasty retreat from the store, leaving the confused coworker behind as they head for the safety of the parking lot. Back in the quiet of the apartment, she lets out a massive sigh of relief while setting down the heavy grocery bags. She reaches up to help him remove the protective mask, her hand steady as she finally bridges the distance between them. He pulls her into a sudden, focused moment of reconciliation, his presence completely overwhelming her previous anxiety. They stand in the quiet room sharing a moment of genuine closeness, the distractions of the outside world finally fading away. Fu Hanzhou leans in with a piercing gaze, catching Nan Zhi completely off guard as she stumbles back in surprise. He maintains a calm, knowing expression, subtly questioning her sudden loss of professional composure. Nan Zhi quickly regains her resolve, meeting his challenge with a sharp retort about her own ability to keep pace with his demands. Without another word, he decisively scoops her up, indicating that her independent plans for the evening have officially been rescheduled. He carries her through the quiet hallway, his stride steady and purposeful, as they transition to a more private setting to settle their dispute. Leaning over her with a focused intensity, he demands she acknowledge the true nature of their connection, instead of hiding behind the cousin charade. The next morning, Fu Hanzhou wakes up to find the other side of the bed cold and completely empty. He sits up with a sharp focus, immediately searching the room for any sign of her whereabouts. After their intense discussion, he discovers a brief note left on the nightstand, stating she has departed for an outing with a friend and shouldn't be a cause for concern. His grip tightens on the paper as a surge of irritation takes hold, his mind racing with technical possibilities of who she could be meeting. He marches into his professional suite with a brooding energy, his focus clearly preoccupied by the morning's unexpected solitude. He finds a close associate waiting for him, who immediately notes Fu's uncharacteristically dark and troubled mood. The associate shifts the conversation to a significant past event, recalling a life-threatening mountain avalanche where he was miraculously rescued. He describes the desperate moments in the snow when a mysterious girl provided the vital support he needed to survive the ordeal. With a triumphant smile, he reveals he has finally identified his savior as Nan Zhi's best friend, Song Zhuxu. Fu delivers a sharp, immediate warning, forbidding his friend from pursuing any romantic involvement with her. He explains that any potential fallout from their relationship could indirectly jeopardize the delicate balance of his own connection with Nan Zhi. The associate remains skeptical, questioning why Fu is so protective of a woman who isn't even officially his partner in a traditional sense. Fu maintains a stoic silence, refusing to elaborate on the complex layers of his professional and personal interest in Nan Zhi. The conversation takes a turn when the associate presents his phone, offering a real-time update on Nan Zhi's current location. They both focus on the digital screen, revealing that Nan Zhi is currently enjoying a social retreat far from the city. Fu's eyes narrow as he takes in the sight of her surrounded by a group of energetic young men at a luxury resort. The photo displays a vibrant scene at the Zingy resort, showing Nan Zhi looking relaxed in a social setting he wasn't invited to. A cold, calculated resolve settles over his features as he decides to take immediate action regarding her unannounced trip. He strides toward the exit with an air of absolute authority, ordering his associate to prepare the vehicle for an immediate departure to the resort. Fu Hanzhou's patience wears thin as his associate continues to tease him about the perceived instability of his relationship with Nan Zhi. A sudden interruption breaks the tension as a manager from one of Fu's subsidiary companies approaches him with a look of pure surprise. The manager explains that his team is currently at the resort for an official corporate team-building exercise. He points toward a young intern, praising the boy's professional capabilities, while unknowingly highlighting the very man Fu wants removed from Nan Zhi's side. Fu maintains a cold, analytical gaze, questioning why an employee is focused on personal social activities during a company-funded event. Terrified of the CEO's disapproval, the manager quickly promises to recall the intern for immediate work duties, leaving Fu's associate to marvel at his ruthless efficiency. Over at the treasure hunt check-in, Nan Zhi checks her phone, wondering why her planned partner is suddenly nowhere to be found. She receives a frantic call from her friend Chu Jin, who apologizes profusely for being summoned away by his superior at the last second. Left holding a non-refundable ticket, she stares at the pass with a mix of frustration and hesitation about entering the event alone. An event staff member approaches her, noting that the rules strictly require participants to enter as a pair. The staff member helpfully suggests that she simply pair up with the tall, well-dressed gentleman standing directly in her path. Nan Zhi's heart nearly stops as she looks up to find Fu Hanzhou standing right there, looking entirely out of place at a casual resort game. He delivers a probing question, his voice smooth and dangerous as he asks if she was originally expecting someone else to join her. Realizing she's been caught in another lie, she frantically tries to usher him into the event to avoid further interrogation. Fu watches her with a knowing smirk, fully aware that she's still hiding the truth about her original plans for the afternoon. They arrive at the first checkpoint, where the festive atmosphere and the sight of other couples only seem to darken Fu's mood. The attendant informs them that the only way to earn the next pass is to pose for a commemorative photograph together. Fu decisively takes hold of her arm, pulling her into his personal space to ensure the photo meets the event's technical requirements. They stand before the camera, looking like a high-profile couple despite the awkward silence between them. He leans in closer to bridge the gap, catching Nan Zhi off guard as she struggles to maintain her composure for the lens. The shutter clicks, capturing a moment of undeniable intensity that looks far more professional than a simple game day photo. As they move to the next station, Nan Zhi feels the weight of the situation, her mind racing to keep up with Fu's unpredictable presence. A nearby volunteer pulls Fu aside, offering unsolicited advice on how to properly reconcile with a partner after a public spat. The young man gives a confident thumbs up, promising to facilitate a moment that will force the two of them back into a cooperative state. They reach the second stage checkpoint, a transition area that signals a significant increase in the physical demands of the treasure hunt. Nan Zhi peers inside with a look of growing dread, sensing that the upcoming task is far more involved than she anticipated. She witnesses several men performing rigorous push-ups as part of a strength-based cooperation exercise with their partners. The helpful volunteer confirms the rules, explaining that this stage requires a high level of physical coordination between the pair to proceed. Nan Zhi immediately begins to backpedal, insisting that she had no idea the resort event would include such strenuous physical requirements. She quietly reflects on her narrow escape, realizing how disastrously awkward this would have been if she had come with the young intern instead. Fu pulls her close once more, his gaze locking onto hers as he questions if she's truly ready for the intense technical coordination that's about to follow. Nan Zhi resists the physical task, pushing against Fu Hanzhou's chest to maintain a professional distance. She glares from the floor, demanding he stop the teasing during the exercise. Nan Zhi's face flushes as she avoids eye contact during the close proximity requirement. Fu Hanzhou leans in, noting that this level of teamwork is familiar territory for them. He grips her chin, ensuring she focuses on the technical demands of the game. Nan Zhi quickly scrambles up to regain her composure once the task is finished. Staff members hand over passcodes, confirming their success in the strength test. The clue directs them to find a hidden red heart inside the resort's haunted house. They stand at the entrance, ready to navigate the dark attraction together, observing other couples clinging for safety. Nan Zhi remains strictly independent. Fu Hanzhou monitors her reaction, offering support if the environment becomes overwhelming. They move past skeletal props, systematically searching the corridors for the target. Nan Zhi remains focused on the mission, unfazed by the plastic creature props. Her eyes lock onto a fake spider perched high on the wall. She points to the target, asking Fu Hanzhou to assist with the retrieval. Fu Hanzhou refuses the dusty prop, so Nan Zhi suggests he lift her up instead. She insists on a professional boundary, citing the nature of their current arrangement. Fu Hanzhou's expression darkens as he grabs her arm, dissatisfied with her clinical assessment. A jump scare mechanism triggers, launching a masked figure toward them. The shock sends Nan Zhi stumbling, forcing Fu Hanzhou to react instantly to steady her. He reaches out with a swift motion to ensure her safety. They finally emerge from the exit, the intense cooperation phase complete. A resort employee recognizes Fu Hanzhou, offering him a ride to his private suite. Nan Zhi realizes his cover is blown while he asks if she wants to continue the game. She marches away, realizing he manipulated the event to force their partnership. They walk down the hotel hallway toward their rooms in silence. Inside the suite, Nan Zhi watches as Fu Hanzhou cleans up after the attraction. They settle onto the sofa, the air heavy with unresolved tension. Fu Hanzhou pulls her close, demanding an explanation for outing with the intern. She snaps back, defending her platonic connection with her neighbor's brother. Fu Hanzhou toys with her hair, warning her about how men perceive such relationships. He holds her gaze with unyielding intensity to ensure she understands his point. Nan Zhi abruptly leaves for the shower, ending their heated discussion. Fu Hanzhou leans in with a piercing gaze, forcing Nan Zhi to confront the undeniable weight of his focused presence. He bridges the remaining distance, sealing their intense discussion with a moment of high-stakes physical proximity. Nan Zhi quickly pulls back, her expression a whirlwind of confusion as she tries to process the sudden shift in his authoritative demeanor. The sharp vibration of a smartphone interrupts the silence, displaying an incoming call from Xavier Liu that connects automatically. Panic flares in her eyes as she frantically covers her mouth, terrified that any sound might betray their private location to the professional associate on the line. Fu Hanzhou takes advantage of her frozen state, leaning in to deliver a low, sharp whisper right against her ear to test her composure. The digital screen eventually flickers and goes dark as the call is disconnected, leaving the room in a heavy, expectant silence. Her mind races with the horrifying realization that their secret interaction may have been inadvertently broadcast to their social circle. She looks away with a deeply flustered expression, struggling to maintain a professional front after such a startling interruption. Fu Hanzhou offers a soft, knowing chuckle, clearly finding her desperate attempt at maintaining secrecy to be quite entertaining. Without another word, he decisively scoops her up to move their discussion toward a more private area of the suite. He strides purposefully across the room, his movements steady and rhythmic, as he carries her toward the bathroom for a change of pace. Later that evening, Song Zixu spots Nan Zhi across the resort grounds and waves her over with an energetic and welcoming greeting. Nan Zhi approaches the bench to join her, facing an immediate barrage of questions regarding her mysterious disappearance throughout the afternoon. She listens with growing concern as her friend prepares to reveal a surprising development about the other high-profile guests at the resort. Her heart sinks as she spots a familiar, well-dressed figure standing nearby, looking perfectly at home within the luxury environment. A wave of pure shock washes over her as she realizes that her attempts to escape the city's complex social web have utterly failed. Fu Hanzhou greets Nan Zhi with a formal handshake, masking their private history for the onlookers. Song Zixu discusses Fu's corporate status while they sit together in the resort garden. Nan Zhi grips the bench tightly, struggling to maintain her composure during the interaction. Zixu suggests a social game to lighten the mood of the gathering. Fu observes Nan Zhi with a sharp, analytical focus as the game begins. He questions her tense demeanor while they wait for their turn. He adjusts his position on the seat to ensure they appear coordinated as a pair. Nan Zhi shifts away to maintain a strictly professional distance from her employer. Nearby, other participants engage in the festive activities with high energy. Fu remains close to ensure she stays engaged with the social group. She signals for him to respect their public boundaries to avoid rumors. He delivers a quiet instruction regarding the technical rules of the challenge. Zixu passes the game prop to Nan Zhi, forcing her into the spotlight. A stranger approaches with a direct inquiry about her current relationship status. Fu's expression hardens as he waits for her to address the public question. Nan Zhi hesitates, aware that her response carries significant professional weight. She carefully considers her answer to avoid any social or corporate fallout. To pivot, she requests a cello to provide a musical performance instead. The instrument is prepared, ready for her to showcase her technical expertise. She takes her position, appearing focused and ready to begin the piece. Her hands move with precision as she starts the complex musical arrangement. The melody resonates through the area, capturing the attention of the entire group. Fu watches with a rare look of recognition for her artistic skill. The performance creates a moment of high-level artistry that stuns the audience. She plays with absolute focus, demonstrating years of classical training. The crowd erupts in applause, acknowledging her impressive display of talent. She stands and offers a professional bow to the gathered guests. A sense of relief washes over her as she successfully navigates the challenge. Fu maintains an appreciative gaze, clearly impressed by her capability. Zixu praises the performance as Nan Zhi returns to her seat. The two friends share a brief, supportive exchange amidst the crowd. The atmosphere shifts as the group begins chanting for a physical challenge. A bold guest approaches Fu with a request for a public princess carry. Nan Zhi and Zixu react with shock at the inappropriate social demand. Nan Zhi watches intently to see how Fu will handle the unprofessional request. Fu decisively takes charge, opting to provide his own performance to end the game. A bold guest questions Nan Zhi's hesitation, asking if her heart already belongs to another. Fu Hanzhou suddenly catches her hand, asking why she's avoiding the music. Nan Zhi stares back, challenging him to follow her lead for once. He offers a rare, soft smile, agreeing to indulge her every whim tonight. Fu rises from his seat, dismissing her excuses about the crowd's expectations. He takes center stage under the festival lights, his presence commanding the entire garden. Nan Zhi feels her face heat up as the lyrics turn unexpectedly personal. Fu reaches out toward her, his gaze locked onto hers while he sings with professional precision. Song Sexu leans in, marveling at the CEO's hidden musical talent. Her friend notices her dazed expression and asks what's weighing on her mind. Nan Zhi looks away, scolding herself for nearly believing his public display was sincere. Chu Jin reappears and takes the empty seat beside her, seeking a moment of her time. She questions why he returned so late, but he insists on speaking somewhere more private. He gently takes her hand, guiding her away from the crowded party. Fu Hanzhou watches them depart, his cold eyes tracking their every move. They stop in a secluded area of the resort to discuss the day's events. Nan Zhi takes a long drink to steady her nerves during the awkward silence. Chu Jin admits his relief that she isn't actually involved with the CEO. She stares into the distance, her focus shifting as she recalls a prior engagement. Sensing something is wrong, Chu Jin checks her temperature with a concerned touch. A sudden wave of dizziness overcomes her, and she collapses forward into his arms. On a nearby balcony, Fu paces restlessly, irritated by her prolonged absence. He makes a sharp call, demanding an immediate update on Nan Zhi's location. His expression darkens upon hearing she is currently supported by another man. Chu Jin lifts her into a princess carry, desperate to find medical assistance. His path is suddenly obstructed by a group of silent, imposing figures. The bodyguards stand their ground, stating they have strict orders to prevent her departure. Chu Jin looks up in shock as a familiar silhouette emerges from the shadows. Fu Hanzhou steps forward with a chilling gaze, ready to reclaim what he considers his. Fu Hanzhou arrives on the scene with a cold, demanding presence, questioning the young intern about Nan Zhi's sudden condition. Chu Jin looks up with a mix of frustration and worry, explaining that she fainted and that the security team is actively preventing him from seeking medical aid. Fu dismisses the intern's concerns with a sharp, icy gaze, stating clearly that Nan Zhi's well-being is no longer his responsibility. The tension spikes as Fu commands the young man to release her immediately, leading to a brief, silent standoff between the two. Fu points out the cold reality of the situation, noting that his private helicopter can reach a medical facility far faster than any ground vehicle. Realizing he lacks the resources to provide the best care, Chu Jin hesitates as he holds Nan Zhi's limp form. He finally concedes to Fu's authority, reluctantly transferring her into the CEO's capable arms for immediate evacuation. Fu secures her against him, speaking in a low, steady tone to reassure her as she mumbles about her rising fever. He wastes no time, issuing rapid-fire orders to his staff to prep the hospital and the transport team for an emergency departure. Before leaving, he instructs his security lead to conduct a thorough technical audit of the resort's surveillance footage to identify any suspicious activity. Upon arrival at the clinic, the medical team acts with clinical precision, determining that Nan Zhi requires a gastric lavage due to potential food contamination. Fu watches the preparations with an uncharacteristic look of intense anxiety, questioning the lead physician about the risks involved. In the corridor, the nursing staff whispers in surprise, noting that the usually unflappable Mr. Fu appears visibly shaken by the emergency. A nurse professionally blocks his path at the entrance of the treatment room, reminding him that he must remain in the waiting area during the procedure. Left alone in the sterile hallway, Fu paces with a heavy heart, his mind focused entirely on the recovery process happening behind closed doors. The sharp ring of his phone cuts through the silence, signaling an urgent update from his investigation team. He answers with a tone of cold steel, demanding a full report on how the resort security was compromised. His expression hardens into a mask of pure fury as he learns of a bribed staff member, immediately ordering a legal crackdown on the perpetrator. Hours later, the doctor provides a status update over arresting Nan Zhi, confirming that she will recover after a strictly monitored period of rest. He reaches out to brush a stray hair from her forehead, his previous anger replaced by a quiet, protective resolve. He dismisses the suggestion of hiring external medical help, deciding to personally oversee her recovery throughout the night. The room falls into a peaceful silence as he takes his place by her side, maintaining a constant watch over her vitals. Nan Zhi begins to stir in her sleep, her voice a fragile whisper, as she calls out for her father in the midst of a fever dream. Seeing her in such a vulnerable state causes a visible flicker of pain to cross Fu's normally stoic features. He gently takes her hand in his, offering a grounding physical presence to help guide her back to a restful state. As she drifts between consciousness, he provides a steadying embrace, whispering a promise that he won't leave her side. He looks down at her with a complicated expression, reflecting on how she always seems to find herself in danger the moment he looks away. Noticing her dry lips, Fu prepares to administer much-needed hydration through a carefully controlled technical method. He leans over her to facilitate the delivery of the water, ensuring she receives the necessary fluids without further distress. Once the task is complete, he rests his forehead against hers to monitor her temperature, ensuring she settles back into a deep, restorative sleep. The next morning, Nan Zhi finally opens her eyes, looking around the unfamiliar hospital room with a sense of groggy confusion. She is startled to find Song Suksu sitting right beside her. Her friends face a mix of exhaustion and overwhelming relief. The moment of peace is short-lived as Zuksu crosses her arms, demanding a full and honest explanation regarding her secret connection to Fu Hanzhou.